came to reaching out to the important stakeholders for building capacities, especially capacity development amongst all important stakeholders in the country. I think NIDM is doing a very phenomenal job on that. On that note, I would like to welcome Major General M.K. Vindal, Executive Director, National Institute of Disaster Management, Ministry of Home Affairs. Namaskar, General Saab. Thank you so much for joining, sir. Thank you. I know you have a very, very busy afternoon, but we are so glad that you could take out time. You could take out time to be with us today afternoon. Your presence means a lot to us, sir, and really motivates not only us but everyone who's right now linked on this call. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Sir, with your permission, sir, we are already at touched the 200 mark. If you allow, should we start the proceedings, sir?
Start.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So, a very warm welcome and a good afternoon to everyone. A special welcome to Major General M.K. Vindal, the Executive Director, National Institute of Disaster Management. Thank you so much for joining, along with all the senior dignitaries and eminent speakers who are with us. I would like to make a special mention of Dr. Chandan Ghosh, Professor at NIDM, Head of Resilient Infrastructure Division, for his immense support and guidance in putting this this online training program together. General Vindal, I would like to share with you, sir, this is the 6th OTP under your leadership, and the first on this resilient infrastructure, so to speak. I would not touch upon much on what has triggered this, because we all know the recent mishap at Joshimath in Uttarakhand. Has actually exposed a lot of loopholes in where where as a country we need to improve upon, especially from an infrastructure perspective. And I think all these 3 days, upcoming 3 days, would be highlighting some very fundamental issues where we can really work on as a team, as responsible citizens and responsible stakeholders in the ecosystem. And the eminent list of speakers which are there in these 3 days, I think is a strong reflection of how seriously everyone is looking at this subject. And we are very glad and we are very thankful to you for giving us this opportunity to work in partnership with NIDM to put this this OTP together. I would just like to share, I would take 30 seconds to give a brief background, and with again a very warm welcome to all the participants who are joining us, all the dignitaries and eminent speakers on behalf of FICCI's Presidium and our Secretary General's office. Thank you so much for your patronage. So, ladies and gentlemen, in the last 2 decades, the dramatic consequences of destructive events, including earthquakes, avalanches, bushfires, landslides, floods, GLOFs, and other destructive hydrogeological processes have hit mountain areas around the world, have further highlighted the vulnerability of mountain communities to these disasters. Due to the increasing disasters, pursuing transformations towards sustainability and integrating effective disaster risk reduction and community resilience building strategies into development projects. Resilient infrastructure, I think, is now a more popular term than it was ever before, especially with our Honorable Prime Minister's key initiative of building up a coalition of disaster resilient infrastructure, where we already have over 25 countries and members and many developmental agencies and banks also. I think India has taken lead, and we are proud to be a part of Team India, which is leading the discussion and deliberation on building resilient infrastructure globally. So the major challenges for resilience lie in developing the essential infrastructure for water, sanitation, drainage, improving roads, airports, supporting housing developments, etc. The recent tragic event in Uttarakhand on the February 7, 2021, and what happened in June 2013, they have only highlighted the extent of which nature's fury can be unleashed in these mountainous regions. The question is how, in the remote and mountainous regions of our country, development activities should better take into account and work their way around the difficulties imposed by the terrain and the vulnerability of these areas, particularly keeping in mind the extreme weathers and geological events. On that note, it was just to give a brief perspective of what we'll be talking about in the next 3 days. This is the 6th OTP, the online training program being organized jointly by NIDM and FICCI. And on that note, I would now request Professor Chandan Ghosh, who's the head of Resilient Infrastructure at NIDM, to please from here for his background speech, or we could also say the theme address. Over to you, Dr. Chandan Ghosh.
Thank you, Rubab, for this having all this arrangement online, and our experts who represents from various institutions, especially Dr. Sain from Wadia Institute of Himalayan Geology, who will be sharing his capsule of information very briefly today in the inaugural session. And also we have Dr. A.K. Mahajan, who is here, who will be speaking just after this session. And we have all the here experts that we have selected. They represent that various aspects of the problem that we are dealing with. We have director from this earlier it was SASE, now it has become Defense Geo Information Research Establishment director, but unfortunately he is having an emergent meeting here in Delhi at 3 o'clock. He will not be able to join here, but he will be joining tomorrow. His lecture is scheduled there. He will share his things. And we have Piyush Atila will be there as a director, DMMC, and and also we have got the person from the ground about which we are going to discuss. That is Engineer Vinay Kumar, who is posted there itself. He is an executive director. He is yet to join, but he will be sharing that what really they need as when hydroelectric projects that they are making, that what really they have faced and what they are needing from us. And in that, can I briefly just few minutes, can I share one slide? That sharing part is not there. And we have taken, okay. Just quickly, I want to share a few slides that I have been able to prepare. Okay. Screen. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Why it is not coming my screen? Or okay. But when my screen is not coming, okay. Something is there. There is some problem in sharing my screen. Okay, I think
sharing rights have been assigned to you.
I will do it as I will do it just after our executive director give his welcome speech, and also Dr. Sain, because he has to go to the airport. I will give just after that. Huh? Okay. Right now, okay. Then I will give overall background, because they have some urgency to go. The screen is not coming. I am not able to share my screen right now. And we have here have taken experts from IIT Mandi, two assistant professors, one assistant professor and one associate professor, Varinder. they have developed early warning system, and which they have deployed in the district, in the Dharamshala, and they have got a huge project from the Himachal Pradesh also to use those early warning systems. So the main thing is it is developed in their institute after thorough study using artificial intelligence and also ML, machine language, and also the system that which is going to give, or you can check that when landslide is going to occur or even earthquake going to occur. So that kind of system individually developed. They are going to share about that, about the landslides and other things. And we have got also one young assistant professor joined IIT Jammu, Divesh Barade. He's the maybe only person that I knew so far that who knows how to measure the ice cap in a Himalaya, or how to measure them using imageries, that what are their property, what are their depth, and all these things. He did his PhD just recently in IIT Kanpur. And we have got one assistant professor from IIT Roorkee who is remote sensing, Ajanta Goswami, who will be who was earlier in India Institute of Remote Sensing, Dehradun. So they have done a lot of work in the Himalaya, Himachal Pradesh to hazard mapping and other things. And not only that, we have got from the media also, like Himanshu Shekhar from NDTV. He is very active in media. And also we have got Himanshu Thakkar, who will be talking today on the soil, river, and how the managements are being done. He has been very, very active in collecting this information, collating them scientifically, and telling people, government, society, everyone that how to manage that our water resources or resources from the nature. And also we have one also from Central Water Commission, who is the master of that GLOF, engineer N.N. Rai, and he will be speaking tomorrow. And we have also, of course, Anil Shukla from geology in Physical Research Laboratory in Ahmedabad will be speaking. And also we have one person who is very much known in the industry, who has done more than 2,000 projects, especially on investigation, whether it is geological investigation or geomorphological investigation. That is Sanjay Rana from Aqua Foundation, that who does all sorts of this investigation, who in fact runs various such training programs. So he'll be joining on day after tomorrow. And last but not the least, we have Dr. Surya Prakash. Along with him, myself, we whenever some disasters are there, we used to visit together. And he will be also speaking. He has a lot of experience. He knows every square feet of the land in Uttarakhand and Himalaya, especially on the landslides. So he will be sharing his experience on day after tomorrow. So I will speak later, but I say that just giving the brief background about the, of course, Professor A.K. Mahajan. He was earlier with Warriors of Himalayan Geology, but he is now full-fledged professor and dean and holding many research administration and projects in Central University, Himachal Pradesh. He is also with us. He will be sharing his experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chandan Ghosh, for giving a brief background, I would say, but also welcoming on behalf of NIDM and FICCI, all the eminent speakers who are there right now connected with us at this moment, and also who will be joining us in next 3 days. Thank you so much for acknowledging the efforts made by these eminent speakers of being a part of this OTP. With your permission, Major Vindal, I would like to call upon you for your inaugural address first, because I know you have a commitment at 3 o'clock. So before I hand over to you for your address, I would like to share a brief background introduction of Major General M.K. Vindal, who is the Executive Director at National Institute of Disaster Management, Ministry of Home Affairs. an alumni of National Defense Academy, and holding a master's degree in Defense and Strategic Studies. He was commissioned into the Corps of Army Air Defense in December 1985. During his more than 3 decades of service, he has held important command and staff assignments. General Vindal served as the Provost Marshal in the United Nations mission in Mozambique, where he was deeply involved in the liquidation of the mission. He has been the Director, Center for United Nations Peacekeeping, the CUNPK at New Delhi. For 3 years, he was also the Secretary of the International Association of Peacekeeping Training Centers. On that note, now I would request Major M.K. Vindal to please take over for his inaugural address. Over to you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Rubab and Professor Chandan Ghosh and Jal Bharadwaj will be joining very soon. That we started this series of online training programs aimed at industries which are related to FICCI, and also to reduce the disaster-related aspects and discuss disaster-related aspects, so that disaster risk reduction is understood in its true sense by everyone. And the involvement of the people can be seen by the number of people who are attending these programs, which is quite large in every program. And hence, I must congratulate FICCI for ensuring that the message goes across to maximum possible people. Today's program is very, very important because of the recent tragedy. The topic today is resilient infrastructures in hilly areas, Avalanche, GLOF, and debris flow, which will be run from 18th to 20th of February 21. We are aware that the flash flood in high Himalayas, which has claimed lives and wiped out 2 hydroelectric plants on the Ganga, it is a grim reminder of the ventures we continue to make. Understand how important it is to harness the nature's potential resources spread over the mountain, but this event has shaken our very foundations of nature-friendly infrastructure outlook. Looking at the series of events and cascading effect that our multi-crore projects are getting affected this time too, we are sure that the scientific community, scientific gathering, and the country would be immensely benefited by today's discussion on this particular issue. For next 3 days, discussion on this particular issue. Notwithstanding the fact there are some obvious reasons why this in a span of less than a decade, the Himalayas are the world's youngest mountain ranges prone to erosion and landslides, and they are unstable because of high seismic activities. In the Indian subcontinent, last year it is presumed that good about 934 major and minor seismic activities all over the country in the shadows of the mountains, with several hydropower projects still being built back to back amid various untamed effect of not keeping into mind the untamed effects of the climate change and the resultant warming, cooling of the glaciers, the unseasonal snow and the heat. They are already deteriorating the already fragile ecosystem. On February 7, 2021, the people of Rainy Village, the birthplace of India's environmental consciousness, as this is where the women stopped the felling of the trees, say they heard a loud bang and there is no warning system in place. Within minutes, the muddy deluge gushed down, damaging the 13.2 megawatt Rishi Ganga hydropower project, and then washing away the under construction 520 megawatt Tapovan Vishnugarh project downstream. So it is not clear as yet if the glacier melted or there was unseasonal snow that melted, or that it was a combination of snow burst along with rockfall or a landslide induced event. Investigations by lead agencies headed by WISG, DGRE are in progress as of now. What's clear is that there was a landslide or avalanche that blocked the river, and when the natural dam broke because of the force of water, it brought the powers of kiloliters of water mixed with moraine, rock, and silt. So it is important to note that this flash flood occurred in winter. There is less water, so destruction was rather limited. It should be a warning of the scale of devastation that can happen if otherwise in some other season of the year. There is no question that we are going to see more of this, not less, unless we change the way to play with the harsh environment uh, in today's world. But more importantly, it will happen until we take better studied decisions on the projects and on mitigating their impacts as much as possible. So in this 3 days program jointly organized with FICCI and an IDM, we will have a detailed study wherein we will identify the vulnerable glacial lake oblique steep slope gorge that pose the maximum risk, monitor them continuously using suitable warning systems, look for possible solutions that are suitable to local conditions. All these issues will be discussed in great length by various eminent speakers. Some of them are present in today's panel also. And it will be really a great thing to listen to them and understand the reasons and what can be done to ensure that mitigation is effective and disaster risk reduction and resilience is implemented in its full form. So with this, I will close my welcome remarks or opening remarks. Thank you so much, Rubab.
Thank you so much, General Vindal, for your very deep insight on the subject, and also very encouraging remarks for us, and you're guiding us for how important this subject is when you talk about building resilient infrastructure in hilly areas. And one of the key aspects, what you also, one of the only, the positive side of what has happened was that this happened in winters. And I think that's a very key takeaway, that, the water, the amount of water behind that, the glacier was lesser compared to what it would have been in summer. So we should take it as a warning and be better prepared in times to come. Thank you so much, General Vindal, for your I would say, for your introductory welcome, and also the inaugural remarks, and giving us a go-ahead to go deep into these 3 days to deliberate more on this subject. Thank you so much again. Moving on, I would now request Dr. Kalachand Sen, who also has, I believe, a flight to catch. So, but I'm very thankful, Dr. Saab, for joining us today, taking our time to be a part of this very important initiative. Before I hand over to you for your address, I would like to introduce you to the audience, which is almost over 300 now, who joined us from different corners of the country. Even some are from the neighboring countries as well. From Nepal, we've got participation from Bangladesh also, Bhutan as well. I would introduce Dr. Kalachand Sen to the audience. He's the director at Wadia Institute of Himalayan Geology, Dehradun, really a very important national asset, I would say this institute is. Dr. Sen obtained his MSc in Applied Geophysics from IIT ISM Dhanbad, and PhD in Seismology from Osmania University, Hyderabad. He visited Cambridge University and Rice University in US as a postdoctoral fellow, and USGS at Menlo Park, USA as a visiting scientist. His expertise lies in seismic travel time tomography, attribute characteristics, full waveform inversion, amplitude versus offset modeling, pre-stack depth migration, rock physics modeling, machine learning, etc. Several new initiatives have been undertaken since January 2019, when he took over as the director, WIG. He has introduced a 5-year mission mode project on characterization and assessment of surface and subsurface processes in the Himalaya, to provide implications on seismogenesis, geodynamics, paleoclimates, and biotic events, geohazards, earthquakes, landslides, and also the lake outburst floods, GLOF as we call it. He established an Artificial Intelligence Center, AI Center of Excellence for Geosciences, to provide solution to industry challenges and has even signed a MOU with ONGC for advanced seismic data processing and interpretation with a view to make his institute self-reliant with regard to ECF generation. On that note, I would request Dr. Kalachan Sain to please deliver his address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Am I audible? Rubab Sudhab? Okay. Very good afternoon to all the participants, faculty members, distinguished panelists. I see Major General Vindal ji and the moderator Ruhab Sudji. First of all, I thank Professor Chandan Ghosh of NIDM for invitation, and I also congratulate both the NIDM and FICCI for organizing this 3-day training program on a very, very important and pertinent topic, resilient infrastructure in hilly areas. Special emphasis to avalanche, GLOF, and debris flow. I special thank for making me a part of this program and giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts and views on these very important aspects. We have faced just a few 1 or 10 days back in this Rishi-Ganga catchment area. We are very much pained for this type of disaster, and rekindles the entire scientific community to understand what are the main causes and the facts behind such events, which is not the only event has taken place into the Himalayan region. So we know that Himalayan region, if I talk about Himalayan region, everybody knows how it has been evolved in the geological past due to the collision and convergence of the Indian plate with the Eurasian plate. And this hilly terrain of the Himalayan region has been a center stage of human settlement because of the sediment water transmit impacting the agroeconomy of our country at one hand. Now, on the other hand, there are a lot of surface and subsurface processes going on into these very, very dynamic and young mountain ranges. And this play a very important role in shaping the landscape of the Himalaya. And this is the landscape of the Himalaya that controls the damage pattern when we face during earthquakes or floods or avalanche or glacial lake or landslide lake outburst. These glaciers, all of us know that they form at very high altitude and act as a dynamo for the generation of the sediment and water into the Himalayan region and feed the river system. In this global warming scenario, we have also experienced that glaciers are retreating and that melting water are developing a large number of glacial lakes, either in the peripheral region or into the over the body itself. And this hill that surrounds these glaciers, we can also see and observe that due to change into the significant variation in the day and night temperature, they freeze, they thaw, and there has been some sort of it make the crack into the rock mass, and that gets avalanche. So along with this already existing water and debris, they create a cascading effect in the form of flash floods in the heavy waters that we have seen. Even we have seen in the low gradient of the lower Himalaya, every year almost it happens, a thick canopy of vegetation catch fire during the warm summers. And this not only create an uncontrollable forest fire, but it also creates or enhances soil erosion. It also enhances carbon into the atmosphere. And this soil erosion is a very, very important phenomena, particularly to make an instability into the Himalayan slope region, and which is the main factor whenever we come across some disaster. It is the slope variation into the Himalayan region that play a very important role, whether it is due to a landslide, whether it is a heavy rainfall, whether it is flash floods. This very important phenomena, the landscape and its geology into the Himalayan region is very, very important. You can see that Himalayan geology is widely varying from the northwest to northeast, even 300 kilometers. And each geology has different type of implications when you try to understand different phenomena, whether it is related to earthquake, whether it is related to avalanche, whether it is to flash floods and debris flow, etc. These flash floods, particularly into the, already I have spoken, into the steep gradient zone, produces most devastation in the downslopes. So whatever we have just talked about, and Himalayan region is fragile, and all these natural phenomena will occur. We can't stop all these natural phenomena. Then what is the role of our as a responsible citizen of the country? How we can mitigate their impact? If we cannot stop them, at least we should be careful that we should not create any man-made impact, man-made structure that will make an imbalance to the Himalayan ecosystem. And we should also try to understand what are the physical phenomena, what are the processes going on. And if we can understand that, and beforehand, before that hazard phenomena takes place, if we can understand that scientific question and provide some sort of information and take the mitigational measure, I think we'll be able to save huge lives, properties, and structures into the downslope. So time has come. There should be twofold of interest. One will be the scientific investigation. We can find out whether related to any sort of hazard phenomena, we talk about earthquake, landslide, avalanche, or whatever may be. First, we have to find out what are the most potential zones in the Indian Himalayan region, number one. And then we have to prepare the vulnerability map of different sorts of, whether it is earthquake zone. Already for earthquake, we know the earthquake vulnerability zonation map, like that landslide, flood. So which part of the Himalayan region is more prone to have such phenomena, we need to identify. And that if we enhance our activities of the scientific investigations, we'll be able to make it. So my question and my answer at this August audience, as well as all the participants, to understand what causes this phenomena, whether it is a earthquake, flash flood due to cloudburst coupled with the glacier lake burst, or landslide lake burst, or rock or snow avalanche, or simply landslides, or forest fires. Our basic understanding lies on the understanding geology, understanding the geomorphology, understanding the landscape, their altitude, their slope variability. These are the very critical parameters we have to know, and based on that, we have to prepare a vulnerability map of different phenomena. So you can alert me when I have finished my allocated time. So in this way, if we have scientific investigation, scientific information, and prepare the vulnerability map and provide some early warning system, if possible, wherever, then we'll be able to reduce the risk. We'll be able to make in a society which will be a very safe and secured environment. So we have a greater responsibility to building the safer and disaster resilient society. And we have to take a very important aspect, that if we understand that this region is vulnerable, then we have to be very careful about the impact of the land man-made structures, whether it is on the road, whether it is in the tunnel, whether it is on the construction of the hydropower project, which are all required for the development of a country. But parallelly, we need to keep in mind how much we should encroach, so that the nature or the environment will not take its own action on us. Because at the end of the day, we all will be sufferers, not one particular group of people. Definitely, the people lying into the downstream, who have built their habitation, who are doing their agricultural work, who are involved into the construction work, they will be affected first. But as a whole, the country loses a lot. So the impact is in general over all of these people. So it is very important to make an impact assessment of the environment. We need to understand what sort of man-made structure we should allow, how much it should be, how much impact it may make. And if we can take care of all of these, I think we will be able to have a very, very secure and safe society in our country. In fact, I think there should be a proper mechanism. We know during these Rishikesh flash floods, people have observed into the upstream, there is a debris flow. If there had been a proper mechanism to give a signal working into this Tapovan hydropower project, there was ample time. They could have created a siren and all the people could have been evacuated. So we need to evolve some sort of awareness program by which even any villager in that local area observe something unusual, like some dust, like some debris flow, they will immediately give word. And for each dam site and other site, there should have been some sort of siren. And whenever they receive call, they will analyze and immediately give the warning. We can do that. To understand all these phenomena, definitely we have to look into lot of spatio-temporal data. And where are those data? Different organizations have been involved in different activities. I know huge amount of data will be available if they are amalgamated at one place, and based on the experts' opinion, if we analyze all these informations, a holistic view, just like still people are telling, we do not know what exactly happened, what are the main causes of the Rishiganga flash floods. And I know different organizations are working. If all the data sets are collated at one place and they given some sort of a discussion, some concrete answer to the question will be evolved. Of course, we have got some of the answer to the main cause of these flash floods. And Himalayan region is so complex, so complicated that working in one particular glacier will not give some sort of idea what is going to happen into the other glacier region. And that is very evident from our study into the Kedarnath flash flood and the Rishiganga flash floods. The causes are different. It took place that cloud burst, then lake outburst. But in the case of Rishiganga, we didn't see there is a heavy rainfall. We didn't see there was a lake outburst. There is no such signature. So causes are different. Even into the Uttarakhand region, we have seen that Chamoli earthquake, and it is very fresh in our mind with that Chamoli earthquake as well as Uttarkashi earthquake is fresh in our mind. And from the GPS study, from the seismological observations, it has been observed that huge amount of strain have been accumulated into the central India where Uttarakhand state is occupying. We need to understand whether the strain accumulated energy may come up in the form of great earthquakes or not. So some sort of study, some sort of investigation have to be carried out without creating any panic. And we need to understand, then properly identify the threat, whether really they have a threat or not. If we do not have that type of threat, then we can say that these are the safe places for the construction of whatever is there, whether it is road, whether it is a highway bridge, whether it is a some sort of tunneling, whatever it may be. We should do that. So in a brief, what I want to say, particularly when the geological time has started in the Anthropocene, now we are in the geological period of Anthropocene. What is the definition of the Anthropocene? The definition of the Anthropocene is the geological period during which both the climate and environment have been experiencing the impact of the human activities. So that Anthropocene, the study of the Anthropocene period, the geological phenomena, whatever has been done by the man-made, its impact is there on the climate and environment, and in turn, the climate is also taking some sort of role to our fragile environment like Himalaya. So all this data, spatio-temporal data, the Anthropocene, not only the today's data, in the Anthropocene time, since the past, whatever impact we have made to the fragile environment, we need to know from which time, 1950, 1940 onward till date, what exactly has happened. And if we have that, we'll be able to predict what we are going to face after some time. The predictional model, we need a lot of spatio-temporal data, and today's era, based on artificial intelligence, machine learning, will definitely help us to predict that phenomena, whether we are going to address some of the excessive rainfall, whether we are going to address some of the land, because of the rainfall, that landslides or snow avalanche, or maybe earthquake triggered landslides or whatever avalanche may take place. So this is a high time, and we should not forget, whenever some natural phenomena takes place, we become very active, we also we collect lot of information, data, and plan. Then in course of time, it gets subsides. So we as a responsible person, our role from the institute point of view, from the organization point of view, we have a greater role that we need to understand what sort of consequences we may face in future. If we cannot predict our future, I think we will be in great turmoil. So we, instead of understanding what exactly has happened here, we also need to focus along the Himalayan stretch, that where such consequences, similar consequences, or other consequences, because Himalayan region disaster related to many factors which may come. And if we can do that, I think we will be able to make some sort of justification and build a very safe and not only earthquake, not only landslide, not only flash flood, not only GLOF resilient society. Will be able to build that, and that's what we are expecting from the deliberations. And I know the people having different background in different aspects of the disaster will be delivering. And I think once we have all this collected information, we'll be definitely able to make it some sort of disaster-free or disaster-resilient society. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Kalachan Sain. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Kalachan, the director of the Wadia Institute of Himalaya Geology, shared some very interesting thoughts, very thought-provoking address by you, sir, and very one of the key takeaways I would say when you categorically mentioned that if we don't do enough, then the nature will take its course. And with all different sort of disasters or extreme events which have happened in the Himalayas, they've had different characteristics. So there is no one formula which fits all. So I think even deep diving into the science, which I think has been done at Wadia Institute very comprehensively. I must compliment you and congratulate you for the wonderful work you are doing as one of the apex institutes on Himalayan studies. And thank you so much for your very thought-provoking address. Thank you, Dr. Kalachan, for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
On that note, I would like to welcome Lieutenant Dr. J.R. Bhardwaj. Thank you so much, General Bhardwaj, who is the chairman of CIBM board at FICCI and also the former founding member of National Disaster Management Authority, Government of India. Thank you so much, Jal Saab, for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you very much.
We are in the middle of inaugural session. We had Dr. Chandan Ghosh initially speaking on giving a brief background of what the reason behind why we put together this OTP on resilient infrastructure in hilly areas. Then we had Major Lemke Vindal with his introductory remarks and welcome address. And then Dr. Kalachan just spoke. I saw you listening to his thoughts as well. And sir, we have a couple of more eminent speakers. Dr. Ghosh will now take over, and we will have inaugural remarks from you in about 15 minutes time from now, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
sure. Can I share my content?
Yes.
Okay. It is not giving my screen. Google Chrome, Microsoft Text. My screen share is not coming somehow. I'm not seeing my screen. You are now presented. Okay.
Can you try now, sir?
My screen is not.
While Dr. Ghosh puts up his screen, visible to all of us. Bhardwaj, we have almost 320 participants who have joined us from different parts of the country and even from neighboring countries. I would like to introduce Dr. Chandan Ghosh, who is the professor and head of Resilient Infrastructure Division at NITM, Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India. Dr. Ghosh, a very renowned, eminent personality, currently works at the Ministry of Home Affairs at NIDM. Professor Ghosh does research, training, capacity building for engineers, architects, and planners in disaster-resilient constructions, geosynthetics applications, earth reinforcement, disaster mitigation and management, retrofitting, rapid visual screening, disaster documentation, bioengineering solutions by vetiver grass, etc. He did his first PhD from IIT Kanpur in 1992 and second from Ibaraki University, Japan in 2004. His current project is revising DM plan for CPWD establishments. Akhil, I think we were still facing trouble.
I'm not able to see my screen here, setting or anything.
No, sir, we cannot see your screen. In the meanwhile, if you can just send the presentation to me, I'll try and share the presentation from my end.
Okay.
Because I don't know, there's some issue at your end, I guess. So if you can just email it to me, I'll share my screen.
Yeah, I think that would be, and then we can run the screens for you, Dr. Ghosh.
Okay. This not. Share.
So for information,
Is it coming now?
Yeah, it is visible. It is visible, sir. Now it is. The presentation is loading. Presentation is loading. It is not loaded as yet.
But we can see your screen, but it's not, the presentation is yet to load. Yes. I think.
You are sharing start. Now it is there, my screen.
We're afraid.
It's black, all black right now. Although we can see it, but not the presentation. The presentation is not loaded as yet. I guess there's some issue. Maybe the presentation is heavy or something.
Maybe the bandwidth issue. Yes.
Now we can. Yes.
Now it is okay.
Yes, it is.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Quickly, just by the way, we come to know that Engineer Binay Kumar, he is having an important meeting at the Tapovan site right now. So he said very sorry, but he is busy in some Tapovan site where the hydroelectric power is there. So he will not be able to join. We can proceed. He asked us to proceed. But later on, he will see that. So, okay, I want to give a background of this work. That's this photograph, saving life in this manner. What a joy of living life, which I think the most important photograph, that most important scene or most important memory that we have in our mind, we'll never forget. And every disaster, we see that some of the touchy scenario, and here it is touchy in a sense, that sense of joy, even though we have more than 200 people, still we are not able to total people that they have lost their life. So to go let me take a little bit of just the background history, things that doesn't like in the less than a span of 7 years, 2013 and again 2007 or 8 years, another one happened. In between also something happened. But after 2013, this one on February 7, it has caught attention of many. So this way, if we go down to the history of occurrence of many such natural man-made or nature man-made or everything, all phenomena, then the history is written there. We get a prolific descriptions of things that happen in our lifetime, as well as the life that we have been able to collate information. So just most recent information is Mount St. Helens, nicknamed as Fuji-san of America. It was prior to its 1980 eruptions. And why I'm mentioning over this, that this is the Fuji-san. They also worship, we also worship Himalaya. It is an abode of our god Shiva. And whatever, we have many temples and many things are there. But this one has not erupted after 1707. But whether it is extinct or it is active or not, scientists have been making lots of modeling, lots of research, lots of database. As you know, in Japan, they have been doing that when it is going to be active again, or is it extinct, or it is dormant. Sometime it may be for 10,000 years, 20,000 years, they don't show an activity. But after 2011 earthquake in Japan, the Sendai earthquake, then there are certain kind of activity started here. Then scientists came upon there to make some mathematical model. And there are certain kind of erratic activity took place, which is more than 350 kilometers away from the source of earthquake that took place in 2011, 11 March in Japan. You know, more than 20,000 people are missing or killed at that time. A nuclear disaster has happened. So the point of making this reference over here in the background is that one event happened in 2013, then 91, 99, and many more landslides events. My colleague, Dr. Surya Prakash, who is the live witness of many of these events that happening since Burnabat in Uttarakhand, he will go over on his experience on day after tomorrow. But how scientists and planners and fund and government, how they empathize to go on active studies. So the background of this today, 3 days of this seminar or training or participation over here through this online is that when earthquake happened in 2011 March in Japan, immediately within few months of time, they saw certain kind of erratic activity which they are not able to see. So scientists came upon there, they did some mathematical modeling, and then they were able to project something that it is due to that earthquake. They are able to ascertain certain kind of erratic activity which is otherwise dormant for more than 300 years, 1707. But they still worship that, let it not erupt again. That is why son Yama son is an honorific Fujiyama. But while going back to again, when mining into the historic activity of benefits of volcanic activity, here I'm saying volcanic, of course, we don't see those things, but how it has revolutionized our way of thinking, our way of living, our way of extracting things from the nature, using for the mankind. If volcanic activity would not have been there, or such kind of things or plate tectonic activities would not have happened, we would not have happened Himalaya million years ago. So volcanic activity is responsible for emplacing valuable mineral resources, as we know, 17, 18 resources that we get. And what are the things that over the civilization, when we started thinking iron, magnesium, potassium, calcium, everything we are getting, it is just because it is a benefit or positive as a volcanic activity. And the kind of soft, tough stone that which formed in Italy, the Romans that they used to use, that you know that how much Italian marble is famous for us. So over scientific study, extraction, and then using them for day-to-day purpose, for living in this earth gainfully and equally in a society, that we have taken things from the nature. But we must also remember that for the human race, I'm just trying to become a little bit stoic before showing the sin that which has happened. The earth is a blessed planet because of its position in the solar system, because of its physical dimensions and vigorous dynamic internal process, among which volcanism plays the fundamental role. The earth is cool enough that liquid water stays on its surface, not so cool that all water freezes. Earth's gravity is sufficiently high to exceed the scape of velocity of water and carbon dioxide molecules, allowing it to retain the unique atmospheric composition with enough carbon dioxide, 0.4%, to create a comfortable greenhouse and to provide the building blocks for life. So as well to shield us against harmful solar ultraviolet. So this is something just from the history of volcanology and the kind of instrumentation that we have got so far in the last 20 plus years, that any earthquake happening anywhere or volcanic activity, more than 150 volcanic activities are there. All these things are daily, every second they are being updated. This is where the advancement of technology, surveillance, observation, monitoring, and other things. So this is taken, and this is available on jumbo seismic monitor. Similarly, volcanic monitor is also there, and many other natural hazards are also being monitored and being presented online for us in the digital world, and how things are moving in this manner. So, but the issue today that what we are going to discuss, it is taken from a World Bank report in 1990. Even for 5,000 years or more, civilizations have relied on dependable water supplies. Report is 1990, today is 2021. So for consumption and irrigation, now as before, dams are indispensable to meet these same human demands, as well as protect us against floods, generate power, improve navigation, provide recreation, promote economic development, whatever. These things we are taking for 5,000 years of our civilization and history. Man has affected his environment, no doubt, ever since he introduced agriculture and started to exploit the natural resources. As a result, nature could not and cannot be preserved in an unaltered state. This we have to agree. Increased public concern necessitates drawing a careful balance. This is where that balance between beneficial and detrimental effects in all of man's activities, including construction of dams. Today's context is dam, so I thought that, okay. And when this debris comes, soils come, how to protect the soil, how to erosion that takes place every day. Just I'm showing a glimpse of things that we have adopted elsewhere, even in our country also, how to grow seeds by throwing them even from 100-meter distance on the slope of the hills, which are denuded, and grow grass. These things for lifetime they can be safe. And nature's gift, nature has given some gift, which even in inaccessible area we can throw them, and we can throw them like this, and we can plant grass in months of time. So when we are talking of 50-60 feet debris that which has filled up the Tapoban project, we have to also think not only establishing the warning system, but also we have to see that the sources of this erosion have to be stopped. I will give a few more examples also later. But so as of 15th February, there are many data you can see every website, even Ministry of Home Affairs, our ministry also is updating this thing day by day. Every day the reports are coming. And but what happened, 80 crore people depend in part on seasonal runoff from Himalayan glacier for irrigation, hydropower, and this dependability that we have established for so many years, especially after 1950s onward, these also we have to keep it in mind. And these are all photographs taken from that Planet lab. You see that this is the area that it has happened. I think many of these things will be shared in the main presentation, but it is 22 kilometers away from the place that where it is considered to be. We have not yet done this investigation, but this investigation is given to now DGRE, and Wadi also visited this place, and lots of investigations going on that whether this is the portion that where rock and avalanche has occurred, which carried through this and then affected this dam. So if it is 22 kilometers, then it might have traveled very fast, but then it is how to be monitored these things, and how the sides of the wall, the river or other things to be protected from erosion or going away or breaching them in between this side or this side. Such kind of investigation and measures that we have to take because this has affected twice now in 7 years of time. So this is that project site that has happened. These are all taken, and this is the current scenario that what is going on. This is that what is there. This you can see, and also many up-to-date reports are available in the newspaper. Just I wanted to show you that these are the many newspaper. We are all updated with all information in our mobile phone and everything. 17th February, just yesterday. So these are all, we are getting all this information, but sharing information, getting information, it is one sort of satisfaction that what is happening because digital media has made it. But what has happened even in the year or in typhoon or anything that has happened, or what are the cascading effect that even an earthquake can have in the Himalaya, landslide, dam failure, building collapse, then train wreck, utility malfunction, tsunami, all these things, cascading effects are there. So dam failure and then dam collapse studies are being done. Then if dam collapse, or then what are the area going to be inundated? For that also we have some software by which we do before constructing a dam, but still cascading effect, interlinking effect, that which still in the very complexity that we have not yet mastered, even though we have got various palettes of information which are being collected now or also collected earlier also, but connecting them, collating them, putting them, and then taking care of cascading effect of one event leading to other event, that other things which still we have not yet mastered the art of doing these things. So in that case, we have to take some nature helps. So these are the just report came yesterday that the one, this Chardham project, 900 kilometer, 1200 crore. Just in verbatim I have done, but here we say that deforestation, slope cutting, blasting, tunneling, all these things are reports are there in hydroelectric projects, but we definitely cannot stop everything but proceed with sustainable developments. And also Chardham project is this, that the cumulative impact of such activity nearby glacier cannot be ignored. Statement is okay, but need for proper investigation and monitoring, which is the current context of this 3 days program. Then expert body in 2014 report had recommended that hydroelectric projects should not be built in these valleys, but hilly areas are having lots of resources. Several projects are running. Return on investment for such projects are also promising, and 80 crore people survive on many things, water supply and other things, electricity and everything. So we have to look at this angle also. And they have done based on scientific visits, reports and everything. And so now it is, I put in inverted comma, had this concern and recommendation been adopted just in the previous, just few minutes before, I say that how complex it is, just we cannot work on the palettes of information that we are collecting and assure everything, but we have to find out by lateral thinking, that breaching something or diverting something, so that it should not come to the main project site, which we have to look at. And some of these measures, of course, in Sikkim are being taken now. So we have to go for all possible measures to make our hills truly livable. But the eventual facts behind this event, Chamoli received 26% less rainfall, according to IMD. No major earthquake by National Center for Seismology. Then glacier thawing and refreezing ice changes the characteristics of the rock and soil. Let us note down. Glacier-related landslides in the Western Himalaya have increased in the last decade. It is a Nature published in just 15 January. And then flooding event was caused by a landslide, which is now coming out, even with Wadia Institute of Himalayan Geology and some of the report and landslide that Planet Lab satellite photos have shown initially, I have shown, taken from there. So this is what is that. This is what they say that here it has happened. This part is taken from here. So which is to be re-verified and checked by the body that under DGRE and audience they are investigating on this. So where did all the water come from? So of course there are a lot of explanation given by the scientists, and the landslide temporarily blocked either the Rishiganga or Dholiganga, and landslide lake, then it burst. Appears to be rock avalanche. In other words, bedrock itself would have been involved. All these things to be brought out in a few weeks of time as per strategies that are taken up. Issues to taken up is there are more than 1,200 big and small lakes. So hydroelectric project specific monitoring system has to be developed. All the hydroelectric monitoring project, in fact, same thing that we have faced in Kerala flood also. And then glacier burst. IMD says no adverse weather were affected in February 7th and 8th. It is as per IMD. So more specific information based on satellite and ground stations are to be explored now onward. So climate change, a lot of things are being said. So I would say that there are very, very critical comments have been made. What are the changes every decade, every year, every day things are changing. And so temperature vary from place to place. Even 2000 to 2016, they have averaged 1 degree Celsius higher than those from 75 to 2000. This is up to globally also, lots of such reports are there. Himalayas are generally not melting as fast as the Alps. This is again taken from some report. So the grim reminder of the past. So we have many things. Vision Dam failure also has happened in 1967 Italy. The dam and reservoir industry has very successful. Now I am coming to the business or other as a funding aspects, which of course is not the aim of current one, but a similar level of action is now required to address landslides occurring at and around dam, construction sites, in the camps housing of workers. To do so will require concerted effort from planners, funding agencies, and regulators and construction company. Here, of course, we do not have all this combination together, but in future, near future, we are going to have all this together. Then looking ahead, much has been written about the adverse effect of dams and reservoirs. Unsupported accusations have been made. Among them, suggestion to stop dam construction altogether is impractical and contrary to people's need for water resource development. Such drastic action also is totally unnecessary. Having built so many dams and reaping so much of things and economy and everything, more than 40% of the economy of Uttarakhand depends on the tourism and all these things. So we cannot go back to whatever you say that stop everything. It is not. It is to be made feasible. We must ensure that water is essential, power is needed, flood control is beneficial, and that therefore dams are indispensable. Dams are safe, the environment can be protected, and social and cultural effects are given careful attention. Each project must be evaluated. This is where that our role comes better on its merits as a part of broader system. So I just quickly want to slide on this here Sonapur landslide in Meghalaya. Then this measures has been taken. Now it doesn't occur, but we have spent at that time more than 25 crore. It is not always feasible. Where landslides can be tamed in this manner, simple technique, more than 50 years ago, such examples are there. By putting this perforated pipeline, we can drain out this water, which are causing this kind of slides. These are just taken from this report, USA and other things. So it's for so many years, these are the simple measures. Whereas this is the Ramban Panihal area. Here we have not taken anything. We are thinking that we can make retaining wall. This is not the, we have to make a nature-friendly, simple approach. Let me see, mountain habitat, we think resiliency is a misnomer if we say that if we allow this at the construction, use in isolated. Then if we make in cities in a hilly area, because today's main topic is resilient hill, then if hill we are using in this manner with all peppers, with all sanctions, with all notes, with all investigation, soil investigation, this report, that report, fire report, and everything. If we are doing in this manner in an earth-prone area, earthquake-prone area, then hills cannot be resilient. And resiliency cannot find any definition in such kind of construction, even in Shimla or wherever it is. If we make our drain in our highways or in our big, in this manner, all same design, same weight, this is not a well-considered decision, well-considered design. Here, no engineering seems to be present, even though, and we don't take care of this portion where the river is there. So then this is not a total engineering of dealing with the landslides. If we do engineering in this manner by putting this kind of wall, no. We have to do in this manner. Then only it is a total engineering, total taking care. Otherwise, these are the ornamental work, ornamental work. Let us avoid such kind of ornamental work. Like the one that I wanted to mention, how long a grass can be, which has given by the nature. One example, I want to say that such kind of hill cut we are making 4 lanes, 5 lanes, 6 lanes, even in the hilly area, 4 lanes. So we cut the hill in this manner, right of way is not there. But we can use that kind of grass in combination with breast wall and other things to make it reliable and lifetime stability, sustainability is there. And this much that it can grow. Like this is in Ramban Banihal NH44. This portion at least, this is built, okay. This portion can be stabilized by grass, or there are similar grass are there, we can stabilize this, but otherwise this is a half-hearted measures. Like you see, this is in Assam, Guwahati, how with a small height wall, how we have made the hill stable for the lifetime. Even considering like all kinds of construction that is the last slide that we have been making, like this kind of tunnels are also there. No concrete is there. It is all grass. It is not in our country, but in our country, we are making a laboratory, nature's laboratory, to test our capacity, how to handle it. And there are ways nature has given such kind of things also to do, not by concrete or retaining wall alone, but by nature's own gift, that which I have shown in this manner. Like you see that how things are growing. So it is also feasible. This kind of resiliency, if we want to establish, then we have to go for such kind of measures which are there, which are cheap, achievable, and reliable. Then only we can make our inhabited really habitable. Thank you. Sorry.
So very much, Dr. Chandan Ghosh, for your very detailed perspective of what we are talking about and what we will be talking about in the next 3 days. Your detailed research on vetiver grass, I think it has been an eye-opener for not only me personally, but all the audience which has heard you, which have heard you over the last so many years. I think that is definitely one of the natural ways to deal with landslide, which you've always been, persisting. And I'm sure with the persistence now that you're back with with NIDM and heading the Resilient Infrastructure Division, I'm sure such initiatives will definitely propagate this science and the ways to how to build more resilient infrastructures, especially when it comes to hilly region. And no one has more scientific and research experience than you. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective, Dr. Chandan Ghosh. Ladies and gentlemen, quickly now, the inaugural address by none other than Lieutenant General Dr. J.R. Bhardwaj, who is the chairman of the Chemical and Industrial Disaster Management Board at FICCI and also the former founding member of National Disaster Management Authority, Government of India. Before I request General Bhardwaj, I would share a few words to introduce him. Dr. General Bhardwaj was formerly honorary surgeon to the President of India, was appointed on 27th September 2005 to the coveted post of member in the National Authority for Disaster Management, an appointment accorded status of Minister of State under the chairmanship of the Honorable Prime Minister of India. Prior to the appointment, he served as the Director General, Armed Forces Medical Sciences, DGFMS, in the rank of Lieutenant General in the Indian Armed Forces, the highest a doctor can achieve in the Indian Armed Forces, and that's where Dr. General Bhardwaj was. General Bhardwaj, on that note, I would now request you for your address, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Rubab. I'm grateful for giving me a few minutes to talk, though I feel that I just want to tell you that the topic that you have chosen is one of the apt subject that is has to be talked today, because we are facing a natural disaster, man-made disaster, I would say, in Uttarakhand. And it is not the first time that these disasters, this kind of disasters have occurred have occurred in the past, but we have not learned the lessons. Today's audience and today's speaker are the real speakers who matter for study of infrastructure, management of infrastructure in the hill area, are present today and are deliberating various issues. I wish the government also takes care of this and finds out a solution to prevent such major disasters in future. It is not that we don't know certain facts. First fact is that Himalayas are the youngest mountains in the world, and so they are kacha. And you touch them, they will come down. Number two, number of reports have in the past have said that don't touch these Himalayas and don't make big dams, otherwise one day it will flood out not only the hilly area but the plains, which happened about 3 years back. The effect was seen even in Haridwar and other places. Third point is that road widening. This project of Char Dham Yatra, I did a yatra about 25 years back when this project was not there. And the road was as good or as bad as what it is today. But we had lesser accidents at that time because we were disciplined in our driving, and all due precautions were enforced by the police to travel in that area. We were not permitted to travel after sunset. Today, the transport goes throughout the night also. So there are certain issues which must be studied. So this 4-lane widening is very dangerous as far as the Himalayas are concerned. It is, but on the other hand, you can talk of development, you can talk of a lot of others of the people. Then our borders, very sensitive borders, are scattered across Himalayas. So we have to have roads, and so we must discuss and come to a concerted, focused decisions that where to do it, what to do it, and how much to do it. So this is very, very important part of it. 3 years back, when floods came in Uttarakhand, from UNDP side, I was given the task to study and create medical facilities along the various places in Uttarakhand. I happened to travel each and every place. Not that I had not traveled earlier, because as the army officer, we have to visit our all posts, medical posts. So not only that, but this time I studied from different point of view. Because if you want to locate a medical team or a evacuation route, you must know which is safe so that you can evacuate and transport the casualties. So I found that safest were the small villages on the top, on the places where they've constructed few houses. And worst was the houses constructed along the river, concrete houses and things like that. So the problem came that the results that we are seeing today, and these must be prevented. And we all know the methods about this, we all know. So a focused decision, balanced decision, I would say, should be suggested by the team today. The outcome of this kind of training program, of course, a lot of takeaway will go from this training program to various audiences. But in addition to that, I think you should make out some suggestions and some action points to the Ministry of Home Affairs for disaster management in this focus area. So with these words, I would congratulate Rubab Sood and his team to organize, and NIDM experts. I think this is one of the best thing that is happening under forum of CIDM. We are conducting these training programs at FICCI, and but the participants is very active and very large number, and CIDM which normally does national training programs, have not discontinued during COVID. We have done more on various subjects. Initially, we wanted to do safety of industry alone, but we've gone to earthquake, we've gone to floods, we've gone to so many things. Hills, as you know, are particularly name a disaster that does not occur in the area. You have snow blizzards, you have floods, you have landslides, you have volcano eruptions, you have snow avalanches, you have landslide, so many things that occur in the. So one has to really take very focused and concerted view about the Himalayas and our hills. Thank you. I'm grateful and well done, Rubab.
Thank you so much. Thank you, General Bhardwaj, for your very thought-provoking and very encouraging remarks. And I said, I always, before you joined, we were sharing, I was sharing with the audience, which is, almost over 300 right now with us, and all the eminent speakers over here, that it's your leadership, and I want to make it, while you are on. It's your leadership which has always motivated us to challenge our own selves, and not just contain ourselves to only industrial disasters, but as you rightly said during the end of your remarks, that an industry's infrastructure can be affected with all these disasters: cyclone, earthquake, landslide. And what happened recently in Joshimath, with the hydropower plants of NTPC and in another power plant got washed away. I think this is a very important point of what you've been also advocating for so many years, of building disaster resilient infrastructure, which is not only disaster but also climate resilient. And I think, sir, this is your guidance that we've in collaboration with NIDM, and special thanks to Dr. Chandan Ghosh, who's been one of your favorite speakers. You always tell me, for all our CIDM conferences, he's one of the showstoppers we have, and his knowledge. I think he's been very instrumental in collaborating with us at FICCI with the CIDM board of putting together this very meaningful and very timely initiative of discussing and deliberating on resilient infrastructure in hilly areas. Thank you so much, General Bhardwaj, for your blessings and guidance. Thank you, sir. On that note, I would request Dr. Ghosh, should we now, we are almost touching 4 o'clock, should we now sort of initiate and get on to the technical session? Would that be, yes? Yes. So Manak, my colleague, dear Manak Majumdar, who
one query is there in chat box, you can see.
Yes. So any queries, I would also urge the speakers, and Dr. Chandan Ghosh has been very proactive in that sense. He's already started answering a few questions which are there on the question and answer window. So we encourage all the participants to please feel free and mention your questions in that window. It could be targeted to a specific speaker, or it could be a general question. We'll do our best to take up those questions on the chat window, and we will take up a few of them at the end of the presentations also. And thanks to all active participants who are really trying to get the maximum knowledge out of these deliberations. Thank you for your active participation, all the participants. So Manak Majumdar, who's an integral part of the disaster risk management team, like Akhil Gupta, who's also with us, Varun Sharma, up till recently Sanjeev, and who continues to be to support this division of DRM. Thankful to all of them, and also to the support team of NIDM under Dr. Chandan Ghosh. Thank you so much, all of you guys, for this very difficult task. I must say, people think that online has made life very easy. Yes, access is easy, but bringing it to the live, there are so many issues, so many glitches, which during the entire duration we have our fingers crossed that nothing goes wrong, because in a hotel scenario you have everyone locked into a room, nobody would go anywhere. But in this scenario, there are so many factors. But I'm so glad we are successfully conducting this, like all other OTPs earlier. So, Menak, over to you as we start.
I just want to update with our participants and everyone, just with the update that I have got over telephone call. As I mentioned that Engineer Vinay Kumar, who is right now at the project site, at Tapoban project site, he's the executive director, but he said sorry that he is busy with supply of some equipments that they are bringing in for the cleaning and other operations. So that is why he is not able to join. Otherwise, later on, he will say he assured us that whatever work that they are doing, there will be a separate session with NTPC, FICCI, and NIDM, where what kind of suggestion and what kind of measures that they can adopt in the site. He has said sorry, but he will catch us, or we'll catch him up to get more details about this on the very theme that we are discussing. And then Dr. Piyush Ratila, he also in busy in a sense that some work that is given by our NDMA along with this Mr. Murugesan. So he is very much busy there in some arrangement. He says that he's not in office, so with mobile he is not under this busy. He is not able to join. He also said sorry that I could not join, but I'm there. We'll be joining as and when session starts. And on this note, and of course, I have told about our director of DGRE that who is having some emergent meetings. So tomorrow his lecture is scheduled. Tomorrow at 2:30, he will be available in that meeting. So with all this, that I would say that as a thanking note to all FICCI team that you have been running and night and day and over online, as Ruwab has said already. Joining online is very easy. It is a click of a mouse. But on the background, our participants and all experts that know very well that organizing such event, we don't want to take any kind of credit for this, because it is a cause for the nation, for the things that we have faced and which is unprecedented. So many people, they are no more. Still, we are searching on. And think of that situation over there in the site, that ITBP, our NDRF, they sit in the same building where I am sitting here. Then SSB, Sashastra Seema Bal, Army, and then NTPC and other agencies, all are busy there day, night till today, 7th, today is 18th. So whatever we are discussing over here, it is one side of the coin, but really they are the people that who are toiling day, night, and night light is also there. I've shown on the photograph. So we'll have after this, assure that we'll have an intense session with the rescuer, the rescue operation that they have been doing, what is their experience, and that we will bring to the public, to the nation, that what really hard work they have to do in a freezing temperature in that atmosphere that where they are working. So let us salute to them that even though we are organizing here 2 more days, 2.5 days will go, but only thing is that let us salute them for the hard work that they are doing. And in the end, but in the beginning, I would say that those who have lost their life, they are not the reason for that. They never expected, their family member not expected. But on behalf of participants, on behalf of organizers, and on behalf of the entire nation, that we pay homage to the family for their best care that God can entrust for their family and everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ghosh. Thank you. Yes, over to you, Menak.
Yeah, thank you, Rubab. So now we'll be starting with the technical session 1. And for that, may I request Professor A.K. Mahajan to kindly give a presentation for 30 to 40 minutes. And before he starts his presentation, let me give a brief about his presentation. About him. Professor A.K. Mahajan is ex-dean, School of Earth and Environmental Sciences. He is also the Dean, School of Life Sciences, and he's also Director for Center for Computational Biology and Bioinformatics. He's also the Chairman of Equal Opportunity Cell and also Chairman of University Placement Cell Provost, Central University of Himachal Pradesh. He has a professional journey from, he started his professional journey from Wadia Institute of Himalayan Geology, Dehradun. And he has a extensive experience on working at 1986 Dharamsala earthquake investigations. He has also followed by investigations by 1991 Uttarakhand earthquake, 1993 Latur earthquake, 1993 Chamoli earthquake, and the list goes on. He has completed his PhD from Punjab University, Chandigarh, and enjoys his distinction of having diploma in disaster management from Geneva University, Switzerland. So he's presently credited with more than 40 research publications. And over to you, Professor A.K. Mahajan, for your talk.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manak. First of all, let me thank Professor Chandan Ghosh for giving this opportunity to share some experience with you all. I thank the FICI, Mr. Rabab Sood also for his presentations, and I think the most of my work has been already completed by Kalachand Sen, because he has mentioned about the Himalayas, about the fragility of the Himalayas, about the tectonic framework, about the land slope, landslides, and why the Himalaya is more vulnerable to such type of disasters. We have seen in the past a lot of disasters in the past also, like Satluj disaster in somewhere in then we have the Kedarnath disaster in 2013. Then we have a Kashmir flood in 2014, and today, this month, we have this Rishi Ganga disasters. Why these disasters occur actually? We need to understand. See, nature cannot turn. We know, everybody knows that Himalaya is a rising mountains, young mountains, and all the rivers are flowing. When you are talking about the infrastructure, resilient infrastructures, when we move around the areas, because I know when I was working at Manali was establishment of this seismic network in Himachal Pradesh, I objected number of builders not to build hotels besides the Vyas river, but none of them had agreed to my opinion, because scientists are not remembered until unless there is a disaster. So what happened after 2 years, there was a flood in the Vyas river and the hotels went washed away. So if we work in that fashion, probably it is not possible that we will save our Himalayan region and our population inhabitant in the residing in the Himalayan region. In Himalaya, we are prone to earthquake, we are prone to landslides, we are prone to flash flood, we are prone to glacial, we are lake outburst floods. And when we talk about these, as Dr. Ghosh has also mentioned, until unless we take in totality all the disasters, we cannot have a sustainable development in the Himalaya. So for sustainable, because I had been an expert in site characterization, or we can say seismic microdiscussion. See, whenever we do the impact assessment of any area, because any project which is being installed in or being planned in Himalayan region, the first step is impact assessment, environmental impact assessment. If we carry out the environmental impact assessment, considering all these factors, because geology is first, as Rishi Ganga, which was a big, we can say, avalanche from the rock, because at that height, because Dr. Ghosh has already shown the map, I didn't want to show, but that how that slope is there, the very high steep slopes are there. So a rock detached from the main body of the rock body, and along with the glacier, it follows with the avalanches and it comes to the downstream and cause a major disaster in the downstream. So Himalaya, everywhere we have this fragile environment in Uttarakhand or Himachal on the higher regions. But the point is how to make a sustainable, how to have a sustainable development. So first is whenever we do the environmental impact assessment of any dam, any river, any major project, I think we need to all these in totality. Looking at the geology of the area, looking at the slopes of the upper reaches, looking at the flash flood concepts, flash flood possibilities in the area, looking at the seismicity. Now, if I post you somewhere here, if I'll share my presentation, I'll show you something. Are you in a position to look at this map? Hello?
No, sir, we cannot see your screen right now.
You are not in a position to see that map?
No. Right now we cannot see your screen. You need to share your screen.
No.
Is it okay?
No.
Let me again do. I think it's okay.
Yes, now
it's
we
okay.
can. Yeah, it's loading. Yeah.
Now you look at this. See, if I take out the epicenter points, this is the area where this is the whole area which has been. See, tectonically we are active here. This is the tectonic framework. This is the and if I plot the epicenter, you need see this whole region is tectonically very active. So if tectonically very active, high seismicity rate is there, and we had number of earthquakes in the past from these regions. So we know that the rocks are fragile in nature. A lot of thrusts are present in this area. So whenever we do the environmental impact assessment, we should have an opinion of the experts. This is very important. And when you are talking about the infrastructure in this region, especially infrastructure in this region, so now you have to consider this, that okay, we are making looking at the GLOF, we are looking at the debris flow, we are looking at the avalanche, but we are not taking care of earthquakes. Then ultimately we are having the same scenario. So infrastructure has to be developed in such a way, and I think I request the NIDM and NDMA that they should plan this research activity in such a way that we have a sustainable research which can lead to a sustainable plan for the sustainable infrastructures. Because unless we have the sustainable plan for the research activity, because I know number of institutions are working for carrying out research. Wadia Institute is one, IITs are others, other institutions in Garhwal University is working. We are all, I am working for the seismic microresonation in different cities. No doubt in Himalaya, I have not, except Dehradun, Jammu and these cities. I'm concentrating presently on cities, and present work is going on Shimla. But all these areas, site-specific investigation need to be carried out when there is any planning or any development activities to be planned in an area. So we have seen, if I look at this map, okay. So the point is that I'll go this. It's coming? No. Sharing, I should close this app. Stop sharing. Okay. Sorry, I'm comfortable with the total this scenario. So my point is only I had not prepared any sequentially slides or all these things. So my point is this only, that whenever we plan for any infrastructure facilities to be created in any regions, we should look into totality among all the disasters. That's what I wanted to have it. Thank you. Dr. Ghosh?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comprehensive details of your experience, especially which you had and still you are doing, and also giving us, of course, NIDM, NDMA, FICI, like our kind of organization is here an umbrella, but umbrella organizations under ministry, under the garb of ministry and government, but real worker or real soldier, like people are now in the rescue. So it is all you, scientists, that you are working. And so in that way, there are a number of organizations have been working, reports are being generated, and they are being shared, discussed. But things that what is happening, even like we are taking here only aspect of glacier or landslide lake that has happened. But that Himalaya fragile economy and 2014 report submitted to, which I have mentioned also, submitted to Supreme Court, and like in case of Kerala flood, also Gadgil report in the Western Himalaya, which was much talked about things that, especially after Kerala flood, that in 2018 August, September. So here also that we cannot separate earthquake, and earthquake related event includes cascading effect of so many other things. So many means landslides also will be there, cloud, and then even debris flow also will be there, and all the structure bridges which are constructed there. In fact, they will be also, they are also vulnerable. So as far as while giving a dam DPR made, there are reconnaissance survey are being done. While reconnaissance survey sometimes takes years and decades, and Hilly Dam, it is a live example for us, how many years that it took to know, to get the debate that it is passing or its foundation is on a shear zone. And then there was a lot of tug of war between scientists, among scientists, and consensus taken. And then constructed, now it is under whatever it is constructed. Sometimes what happened that whatever is the parameter, maybe we mention in the subject, or we mention that this is to be taken, but we do not often integrate them in a single formula, because ultimately we engineers or we analysts or software that we are having, they have to be fed with certain parameters and constitutive equations. Despite we have got extensive investigation, of course in this case we didn't have any such investigation, which is also not always feasible. Even dam construction authority like hydroelectric power project at Tapovan area, they might have done extensive investigation on the dam site only, but 20-25 kilometer upper reach in the Nanda Devi glacier, from there how this kind of debris is going to come, that kind of investigation and has not been done, even if investigations are there on record. You see, there are many methodical reports are there, systematic reports are submitted, but integrating them, putting them together across with all planners, designers, construction agency all together, somehow that part is still taking missing while going for such kind of mega projects in such especially in the fragile area like Himalaya that scientists have been mentioning. So that is very true, and you are no other than you know all these things, and we also know that we cannot go beyond certain limit by telling or not telling that this should not be done, this should be done. And the kind of scenario that we are making in our hill, where we are putting a word resilient, which the kind of establishment that we are making, despite having so much of difficulty, so much of problem, that people are not well aware. So in that case, from the scientific agency, from the scientific organizations, we need to come to their level of awareness. then only our scientific study reports and
Will have
our
an
recommendation will be finding
impacted.
some meaningful implementation. By telling that you should not construct hydroelectric project, probably that has to be taken in a other way. Because the kind of Tapovan site you saw, that what a wonderful site for ideal place for this kind of project.
No. My point is not to destruct anything, but the point is our investigation has to be complete. As you have mentioned, up to Rishi Ganga, the investigation might have not taken. But when we are doing the environmental impact assessment, I think the catchment area has to be considered. Because if we not consider the catchment area, we are not doing the justice with the study. That's the point.
Yeah. So in fact, these things will come out in a more intense discussion, other way, not in online or in this way with the executive agency like NTPC. In fact, when I was interacting with them in the last 2 days, they say that I simply say that we know that you are handicapped because you are thermal. You have come to Koldam. You started with your journey in this area with Koldam, your experience. And NSPC is the main organization. But what happened then? Early warning system were not there. Then, so what kind of early warning system that they can make it, and how decision can be taken? What are the threshold values? Threshold indication and warning should be given. So it needs to be sit together, and for that our institutions of higher learning like your university or IITs, even lab like physical research laboratory lab like Dr. Shukla is here. So we see that we need to complement each other's role over
Of
here.
course, that's right. That's right.
That is a message that we want to
that I agree. Yeah, thank you.
What they need, it is to be not that forcefully that you need this instrument. Okay,
that's not right.
It's not like that. What is the thing suitable to that particular site, which may not be suitable to another site?
Yes, of course.
So there we have to work, as you mentioned. There we help NIDM, FICCI, and DMA. There we bring, like presently, the investigation work is taken up by Ministry of Home Affairs under Home Secretary, who is being reported every time by our investigation team consisting of DGRE and their research team. So every time they are communicating that why these things happen, what is the reason behind this. So that every day, every moment they are now reporting to the Home Ministry, especially after the incident, after this event that has taken place. And every day some memos and reports are coming up, giving an update, and which you, our audience, you can get in our Ministry of Home Affairs website.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So let us see some questions if it is there. Then before calling, I think we have to. Piyush Ratila Saab will be busy, but we'll see that tomorrow if he can join. Rubab, can you see? Okay, I can see some of the questions. Of course, this is Rakesh Kumar Misra. Before recent glacial burst is not because of climate change. Okay, I think it is because of landslide-induced glacial breakdown and under the influence of gravity. Yes, however, exactly what happened that can be said after satellite-based image data analysis. Even many drone studies, ground-based information. Investigations are being taken up, not only satellite, but also more intense data are being taken even with more ground-based, say this LiDAR camera and other things are also there. So you are right in that way, it will come out. What kind of precautions take? What kind of precaution to take of this work? I think Saddam question to all panelists, what kind of precaution to take of this work? And when take any project of hydroelectric EHS, engineer should include in the project. Am I right, sir? Right, sir? You are right. So this lot of things, dams we have been constructing, and in India also we have got more than 5,000 dams, 50 meter and above. America is the highest, 88,000 plus dams. China, then next. So there are 5 lakh dams are there all throughout the world, I think. And highest are there in Kazakhstan or those areas, 300 plus. And their entire economy depends on, their entire economy is on that. Like, so that way, in fact, a lot of literature are available on the dam, what are the precautions to be taken. As I said, many of these, before going, site inspections are done by a group of experts on that, and then there are many tools are there, then only site selections are taken. So it is a very enriched science and technology, I would say, and it is same as like the perfection in dam design, especially dam part and reservoir. Perfection is considered as perfect as our airbuses run at the speed of maybe 1,000 or even 2,500 kilometers in a year. So that way, as far as dam area, foundation and other thing, failure and other thing are very rare, even though those failure reports are also there. But of course, in such kind of climate change or such kind of cascading effect, something happens somewhere else. So that part is still nascent in our domain, and which we have to take based on many monitoring system, investigations, data. Okay.
Yes. So,
thank you so much.
Dr. Ghosh, do you think we should have some more questions right now, and then we request the next speaker, Mr. Himanshu, to come in?
Yeah.
Or do you want to take them?
No. We can take it.
Yes, we can take it later. Yes, I think that. Nanak, I think we can invite Mr. Thakkar for his presentation, and then we have a lot of time to also answer, meanwhile, the questions on the window, and also take a few important questions, if I may say so, at the end of the session. Right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Nanak, over to you.
Thank you, Bob. So next, let's start with the next presentation from Mr. Himanshu Thakkar. He is the coordinator for South Asian Network on Dams, Rivers, and People. Himanshu Thakkar is an engineer from Indian Institute of Technology, Mumbai, and is currently the coordinator at South Asian Network on Dams, Rivers, and People. And he's also the editor of Dams, Rivers, and People magazine. He has been associated with water and environmental sector for more than 2.5 decades, and in the past associated with the work of World Commission on Dams, Narmada Bachao Andolan, and Center for Science and Environment. It's a very interesting profile, and that will be also a very interesting, talk from Mr. Himanshu Thakkar. So over to you, sir, for your presentation.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Dr. Ghosh, and also the collaboration of FICCI and NIDM. Can I share my slides?
Yes, you can.
Okay. So is it visible? Not yet, huh?
Yeah, it is loading actually.
Okay. It takes quite some time to load, huh?
It is visible now, Mr. Thakur. It is
Yeah.
visible now.
Okay. I'll just make it a full slideshow presentation. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I have given the title of my presentation as what are the force, some of the factors which act as force multipliers in Uttarakhand disaster. So there are several factors which plays force multipliers role in disaster. One is, of course, a lot of the previous speakers have talked about the inherent vulnerabilities of Uttarakhand. And those inherent vulnerabilities are getting worsened because of the climate change, global warming. The third such factor is inappropriate infrastructure development without proper informed and democratic decision making. The fourth one is that even when you take up such development projects, there are very serious violations in their implementation. And there is a serious lack of monitoring compliance and even when there is non-compliance, there are real no consequences. There is absence of monitoring of vulnerable areas. Then there is a lack of alert active disaster management mechanism. There is absence of capacity or mechanisms to learn lessons from past disasters. There is very little accountability. And there is a role also very important factor in the role of judiciary, media, and independent institutions. And I'll take each of these factors in one slide each. Just highlight the bullet points. So inherent vulnerabilities of the Uttarakhand include the young Himalayan mountains, very high seismic activity, landslides prone, avalanche prone, GLOF prone, flash flood and regular floods prone area. Another one which is nobody has mentioned really is that there are very large paraglacier areas. The Rishi Ganga catchment is one such paraglacier areas. So is the Dolly Ganga catchment. And then there are paraglacier influence areas. So even if the area is not paraglacier, the downstream area, immediate downstream, say for example, the Tapovan Vishnugarh dam area may not be paraglacial area, but it is a paraglacial influence area because it is under the influence of upstream such areas. And the last important point is, it looks so simple, combination of vulnerabilities, but this is the reality. A very large number of these factors come in a combined way in number of instances, and then it really complicates the issue. The climate change, as I said, is increasing. The global temperature is increasing, but the Himalayas are experiencing even a higher temperature increase, and this is increasing the vulnerabilities in number of areas, including melting of glaciers, changing precipitation patterns, increasing frequency of high intensity rainfall events, including cloud bursts, reducing snowfall, and as against that, increasing rainfall, increasing incidence of forest fires. Even in winter this year, there has been instances of forest fires in Uttarakhand. The third major factor is inappropriate infrastructure, absence of informed democratic decision making. So the first thing is that, lack of credible project-specific and cumulative impact, environment and social impact assessment. So, there are, for each projects like Tapovan Vishnugarh project, there are environmental impact assessments. So there is a document which is, the title of it is that this is the environment impact assessment of this project. The problem is that these are really, we all know, and there are so many reports which shows that most such reports are not really rigorous or adequate reports. And a lot of them are cut and paste, dishonest kind of jobs. And it's typical because the developer is paying the EIA consultant. So EIA consultant, even if he wants to remain in business, will need to ensure an image that he is not going to be making difficult for the developers. So they give the reports that the developer wants. The second thing is that the EIS don't have disaster impact assessment. Now this is very important because when the area is already vulnerable to disaster, then you need to not only understand those vulnerabilities. So there should be a disaster impact assessment, but also how that project is changing the disaster impact potential of that area. That's very important part of the EIA, which is never there. We have been writing to the EAC and the MOEF repeatedly, but that has not really happened. Then we have to keep in mind not only the project-specific impact assessment, but also carrying capacity of the area. And what is when you go beyond the carrying capacity, what happens? Particularly, as you know, as some of the speakers said, we are taking bumper-to-bumper projects in that area. There is lack of independent appraisal. We have appraisal, EACs, expert appraisal committees, but there are never independent members in that. They're mostly government people, or there are people who would toe the government line. So people with independent minds are rarely there in those meetings. In fact, I haven't seen any in last 2.5 decades. There are no there is public consultation process, but they are not really genuine. There are serious problems with that. As far as monitoring and compliance is concerned, even the ministry officials tell us that they don't have the capacity to monitoring and compliance of the conditions of the clearance or environment management plants and so on. Even Prakash Javadekar is on record saying that the project developer come and tell them that you write whatever you want in the conditions of the clearance. It doesn't matter once the clearance comes. So this is the reality of the monitoring and compliance. And hence, because there is no monitoring and compliance happening, there are no consequences if violations happen. There is a tendency to cut corners. For example, see the environment process as an unnecessary obstacle. All of this is applicable for hydropower projects, roads, railways, buildings, mining, etc. And then there are violations in implementation. For example, I'll give you a couple of examples. Uttarakhand has a very remarkable center called Disaster Monitoring and Management Center. Now, that center in 2012 report had said that no explosives should be used anywhere in Uttarakhand for any development activity. But every road, every tunnel, every mining, every hydropower projects uses explosives. Muck dumping. There is supposed to be a plan for muck dumping so that it doesn't enter the river. There is supposed to be protection and so on. But the easiest thing for the developer and the contractor is to dump it in the river. And that's what happens in most projects. We have given videos and photographs to the ministry. Nothing happens. There are absence of proper appraisal. Absence of proper appraisal then leads to regular encounter with what is called geological surprises. The Tapovan project, take Tapovan project. The work started in November 2005. It was supposed to be completed in 2011. We have a statement from the Union Power Minister now that we don't know when the project will be completed in 2021. And when you ask them, they'll say there are a lot of geological surprises in the project. You will get geological surprises if you don't appraise properly. And that's what happens in project after project. And of course, the disaster management plan is mostly on paper at best. We also have lack of alert action, active disaster management. This thing. Just a minute, yeah. Okay. So for example, Uttarakhand. This was the same situation in Uttarakhand, even in disaster in 2013. I'll give you a very glaring instance. That when the Kedar one of the first thing happened in 2013 disaster was there was a flood in Kedarnath, which led to washing away of the whole area, a lot of people and so on. 24 hours after that, after the Kedarnath was washed away, was flooded, a helicopter arrives in that area with passengers from Rudraprayag. Imagine. So information of flooded Kedarnath had not reached even Rudraprayag 24 hours after the project, after the disaster started. So this is the kind of information sharing system that exists in Uttarakhand. So this is a very serious problem. So the first step is mapping and identification of vulnerable areas, which some of the speakers have talked. But then the next step is very important. Mapping is not good enough. You need to monitor with all our available techniques and technologies to monitor the area. And when then the next step is once you have the information that you get from the monitoring, then you need to have a system which takes appropriate action, alerts all the affected people and areas, frontline agencies, personnel in such areas. These can minimize damages and casualties. So, what we are good, we have fantastic NDRF, SDRF, ITBP and armed forces, etc., which are very good at rescuing people in the disaster. But before that, before the rescue starts, we can do so much more in minimizing the disaster proportions, and that we are not doing. Yeah. This I've already said. Yeah. An example of, I'll give you an example of how this can play out in, current disaster. A very senior NTPC official said that we had a complete emergency disaster management system in place, a complete system of emergency measures. But water came with such volume and speed that there was no reaction time. It was nil, he said. Now, that's not true. I'll give you instance. There is a woman called Mangshri Devi. She was at a higher elevation. She saw the flood coming and she knew her son was working on the Tapovan dam. She immediately picked up her phone and called him and told him to get out of the dam site, get out of the danger river. At first, his son Vipul did not listen to her and say, "What are you talking about? The pahad aise nahi girte hain roj roj." And he cut off the phone. She kept calling him repeatedly, told him, "Please get out. There is a flood is coming on your way. I've just seen with my own eyes." After some time, he does get out, but not only he does get out, but he alerts, when people ask him, he alerts people around him, and no less than 25 people got out of the way. Now, what Mangshri Devi did was exactly what the Disaster Management Department of Uttarakhand or NTPC or Rishi Ganga project developers should have been doing, because they should be getting advanced information, whatever to what extent is possible, and remove the people from the disaster area. This is what one of the speakers earlier also said, that it is possible. I think it was the Western Wadia Institute director who said that there was sufficient time for the people to evacuate from the area, from the point. But even from the point of when it was visible from Vishiganga, there was sufficient time. But there is no system in place to use such information to alert the people at risk. And this is where I say where we don't have alert active disaster management system. The absence of capacity or mechanisms to learn from past disasters. So, our system don't seem to have capacity or mechanism to learn, if you go to, you take US, for example. I've been seeing dam disaster in US for several years. What I see is that one of the first things soon after the disaster they do is they set up an independent committee and commission to learn, to find out what is it that we can learn from the disaster, what happened in this disaster, which agency played what role, and what is it that we can learn, and how we can put those learning into practice. Have you seen such a report of 2013 disaster? We haven't seen comprehensive report of what happened in that disaster, an independent inquiry, and what we can learn from such a disaster. It was the worst disaster in Uttarakhand history, but even for such a disaster, we don't have such a report. So that's the first step. If you have such a report that can tell you that, okay, what lessons you can learn, and then if it should also be telling us that how we can put this into practice. But if we don't have, we don't even have a method, a mechanism of capacity to learn lessons, and that's, I think, we need to really change. Of course, there is very little accountability. For example, the inquiry can also tell you that who are the people responsible for certain lacunas. Now, for example, take this disaster. Now, will we have an inquiry which will tell us that did the Tapovan Vishnughat EIA look into the possibilities of such events? Did the expert appraisal committee in its appraisal look into the possibility of such events, and whether the EIA included that or not in the investigations? Will the inquiry look at whether the Central Electricity Authority, which clears the techno-economic aspects of the projects, and when it clears a Tapovan project, for example, it also consults GSI, Geological Survey of India. Will the inquiry ask if the CEA looked into these projects and ask whether GSIA looked into the geology and catchment area disaster potential? Similarly, it expects CWC. The CEA also consults CWC while giving techno-economic clearance. Now, will the inquiry ask whether CWC ensured that there was a proper disaster management plan in the DPR and EIA? And and all this has to be done through independent inquiry, not through government officials. And similar question can also be asked of Rishi Ganga project. Incidentally, Rishi Ganga project did not even have an EIA. We have a wonderful EIA system where projects below 25 megawatts don't require EIA. But the Rishi Ganga project shows that that's not correct. We need to have EIA even for such projects. The next issue is about the role of judiciary, media, and independent institutions. Some of the questions that this disaster throws up that, for example, August 13, 2013, Justice Radhakrishnan gave an order about Uttarakhand hydropower projects. Now that whole order, the letter and spirit of that order, has been completely derailed over the years. Now, this raises a very question about the judiciary, that how did that basic letter and spirit of Justice Radhakrishnan order got derailed over the year? Why did the Ravi Chopra committee recommendations not implemented? That's because they were submitted to the judiciary. People at Rani had gone to High Court against the Rishi Ganga project's violations. And what did High Court do? High Court asked two government officials to go and check whether the claims of the local people are correct or not. And the government official said, oh, everything is okay. And the High Court dismissed the petition based on that. This is, again, this is a question, raises question about the functioning of the judiciary. In 2005, when the project was given clearance, the National Environment Appellate Authority, there was a challenge about the environment clearance of the project by Matu Jan Sangathan, which works in that area. In 2005, NEA rejected the challenge. You know why? It came too late. Imagine 2005, one of the bodies of judiciary challenge, rejects the clearance, challenge to the clearance, because saying it's too late in 2005, and here we are facing that same project still facing disaster. And say in case of Chardham Highway, the Supreme Court has been very lenient towards the NHIA and Ministry of for what there are videos which anybody can see on YouTube that how the project is just dumping the muck straight into the rivers. No consequences. The project, everyone knows that the project has been broken into smaller parts so that the EIA process doesn't happen. Did the Supreme Court ask that you go back to the drawing board and start go through the EIA again? So, this raises very serious question about the functioning of the judiciary also. And similarly, we have many questions about the role of media, independent institutions, and experts. If we do not show the intent and will to address these issues, we are destined to face more such disasters, possibly with greater frequency and intensity. I'll end with this last slide, which is on, there are a lot of questions. Okay, the last but one slide. A lot of questions about the current disaster. One of the questions is that who is monitoring snowfall in India? Because snowfall had a role to play in this disaster. But the snowfall figures are not in public domain. Which place had how much snowfall over what period? Rainfall figures are there from IMD, but why snowfall figures are not there? So that's a very important question. SASC has been supposed to be monitoring the snow and avalanche studies authority is supposed to be assessing the monitoring snowfall, but those figures are not in public domain because it's a defense organization. It's supposed to be possibly providing to IMD. The IMD should be putting, but anyway, the point is it's not available in public domain. Who is monitoring paraglacier areas? Now, this is very important because paraglacier areas are those where there is a lot of debris lying on the floor of the catchment. And any time they can just flow down if there is an avalanche or a flood. So it is very important to monitor those areas. This is what happened in this disaster. Similarly, soon after 2013 disaster, there are questions about Doppler radars. Before 2013, Doppler radars were sanctioned, The money was sanctioned. Everything was in place, but the Doppler radars were not installed. It got installed. The first one got installed in 2019-20 only. And that's the only one. Why? Because it's a very important role to play. Again, the first detailed explanation of what happened in this disaster, came from not from any of our agency, but it came from a foreign agency, directly Landslide blog. Why it didn't come from our own agencies? The first satellite images of the disaster area did not come from ISRO or Uttarakhand SS, state remote sensing agency, but it came from Planet Labs. Why? Why were drones and helicopters not promptly deployed to survey the disaster-prone area and share the information so collected? Why did the information about Rishiganga landslide dam came to public domain only after an academic, Dr. Naresh Rana, visited the area and shared the information in public domain? But there were earlier helicopter surveys, and even Wadia Institute people went that area. Did they not notice that? Even, in fact, on the 10th of February, ISRO had shared some of the images, satellite images. But those images did not capture the landslide dam on Rishiganga. So did ISRO miss it, or it did not put it in public domain? Possibly it was told not to do it. So we don't know. So there are a lot of questions about how this whole, even in this disaster, information is gathered and put it in public domain. A lot of information that has been gathered is not in public domain. Why is there so much secrecy about even putting disaster-related information in public domain? It should all be automatically out in public domain. And I land, this is my last slide, that NDMA in just October 2020 has come out with a guideline of GLOF. And document comes with preface from both the Prime Minister and Home Minister. It's been so it's very interesting. But just I'll highlight 2 or 3 points from that guidelines. One of the things it says is that in contrast to other countries, there are no uniform codes for excavation, construction, and grading codes in India, restricting construction and development in GLOF, that is glacial lake outburst flood, and LLOF, landslide lake outburst flood prone area, is a very efficient means to reduce risks at no cost. But we have no such codes and restrictions. Another thing it says that there are no widely accepted procedures or regulations in India for land use planning in GLOF, LLOF areas. Such a regulation need to be developed. Indian Himalayan region lies in seismic zone 4 and 5, making the region highly prone to earthquake. This combined with other disturbances such as avalanches and falling boulders is making the glacial outburst vulnerable to breaches, unleashing sudden, potentially disaster floods in nearby communities. There's a lot more in these guidelines, but we don't know. There are a lot of such guidelines that come from NDMA. In 2008, they came out with a reservoir operation guidelines. They're not getting implemented even today. So the one problem with the NDMA guidelines, they are good and they're useful, but what about the implementation? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thakkar, for that very informative, and I should say very to the point presentation. Very intriguing facts and figures you had mentioned, and your last slide was something which was which spoke about some regulatory framework which NDMA has put together, and yes, there were guidelines issued in 2008 which perhaps were not notified, but then we work with NDMA on propagating the National Chemical Disasters Guideline. They were not only notified back then, and those guidelines were formulated under the chairmanship of General Dr. J.R. Bhardwaj, who was there for the inaugural session. Well, I think NDMA is very proud also to share that when those guidelines were issued, their industries used to have, especially the MAH industries, used to have on-site plans. Not all of them, but most of them. I would say 90%. But the reverse figures were reversed when it came to off-site plan. Only 10% had an off-site plan, maybe 15, and rest were either in the process of making or they were not even had not even initiated the process. But come the guidelines, them getting notified. Today, all MAH industries in the country, all major industries in the country have a comprehensive on-site and off-site plan, and they also practice them through various level models. So I'm not trying to contest anything, any statement, but you very rightly said that chemical disasters perhaps was the more serious issue which was dealt with very seriously by the authorities. But now with the sort of infrastructure loss we face every time something like a landslide linked or a glacier linked outburst happens, and or the cloud burst happens up in the Himalayas, the young Himalayas, I would say, raises again fingers on the sort of preparedness we have and how seriously we look at the term, the rules and regulations and the guidelines which are issued by various regulators to ensure the infrastructure is resilient. But I think some very glaring facts and figures which were shared in your presentation. I must admire the research which has gone behind that. Thank you so much, Mr. Thakkar. Over to Dr. Ghosh for his comments, please.
Yeah, thank you, Himanshuji, for your highlighting things from the perspective of common man's perspective as well as more relevant and things that guideline have been made available after NDMA. And you also mentioned about many such things are new, even climate change and things that which are being highlighted since 2007 and onward, and everywhere, and new guidelines are coming up. Only in the last 1 decade, maybe many new guidelines are coming up for helping the industry to grow. No doubt the subject is the area disaster management, and especially on the topic today that we are discussing about the GLOF. And in fact, we have an organization in Nepal, EC Mode. They have also several publications are there, especially in the Indian Hindu Kush Himalaya area. And mappings are also done, whatever events have been recorded, and they are also done. But only thing is that what we have to make in the resilient hill nation or resilient hill habitat construction, that in that higher Himalaya or even in the lower Himalaya, the way that we are living, the kind of constructions that we are making, the kind of roads that sometimes we are making and widening also we are doing, there are a lot of fragility are being exposed, and they are taken care of sometime in a very shabby manner. But only thing is that when more and more such events are happening and people are getting to know, and when people are becoming more aware, which is our aim over here in this workshop also, in this training program also, when people become aware, then they also become part of those development and those mitigations or the disaster before they occur, they also become part of the decision making. But as far as our capability, scientific capability, technical capability is concerned, if we see that when we talk to Eastern Europe or someone who is talking over online, maybe outside temperature is minus 20 degrees, or even in Canada or even northern or eastern USA. Even for 2 months, 3 months, city like Chicago city, they are under minus 20 degrees last year, like that. But they are all facilities, means infrastructure. In fact, all facilities and everything, water supply, everything is intact. So and they are comfortable over there. But in that respect, our kind of living, like if we take Srinagar as an example, when it is minus temperature is there, and if we see that the kind of infrastructure facility which become alive and active in the context of in our country. We have to learn a lot, and we have to bring a lot of vibrancy in creating such kind of infrastructure facility also in the hill area. But over and above that, the kind of vulnerability that we are already increasing by overpopulating them, exploiting the natural resources in a manner that which should not be, is of course creating more and more trouble. But the main thrust point of discussion over here is that when these points are highlighted, and when it is our scientific body, investigation, satellite, IMD, and all agencies, when they come together in the same platform, then only we can make a vibrant living. So it is not that we are behind, but such events are opening up our eyes. Even report made 10 years back, or even after 2013 or 2014, you mentioned, I also mentioned, that this should not be done, that should not be done, or even run-of-the-river projects also. Lots of thought process, conferences, inferences are being shared, and you know, you have been very, very much conversant about those things. But thing is that yes, we have to look forward only. We have to look forward and make our habitat resilient enough. That much note that I would say that I can share with everyone over here. Thank you. And I could see that there is no, as such, someone asked about the vetiver grass. I have responded to him privately where it is available. Everywhere it is available, whether it can be used as a fodder. Of course, this is a grass not to be used as a fodder, but it has many other uses, which I have given the website address where you can find many other uses. So, okay, I think.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Ghosh. Of course, thank you, Himanshu Thakkarji, for for those comments.
Thank you.
Insights. Thank you so much. I think there are a series of questions which have come up, Dr. Ghosh, from our very active participants.
Okay.
Sameer Jamatia, Gautam Kumar Haldar, and Anusha Batra. I think.
Please take up. I'm not.
Would you please enlighten regarding? Yes, one of the I think one of the questions Gautam, in fact, Kumar asks, would you please enlighten us regarding international practice of quick evacuation system from such project site in case of an emergency? I think this is from the
okay.
Yeah, from that perspective in the hilly regions. I can share one thing, sir, on this. Our NDMA, at NDMA, when NDRF, the National Disaster Response Force, was being constituted back in 2007, 2008. I remember I was attached to Mr. K.M. Singh, who's known as the father of the Indian NDRF, and he's also the Subhash Chandra Abda Prabandhan awardee of 2019. The UN has an organization called INSARAG, and they have a research and rescue protocol, internationally accepted protocol. I think our NDRF, it's a proud moment for our country also that I think it got delayed by a few months because of COVID. Otherwise, NDRF has been is the next force under consideration. Strong consideration, and by the end of 2021, it would be an authorized INSARAG International Rescue Force by the end of this year. So it will not only go in bilateral, countries to where bilateral understanding is there, but UN can nominate NDRF force to any country it wants to globally. It would be under the UN. Right now, NDRF goes wherever there is a bilateral relation with the country, but then it will have UN will have partly as they say, the ownership into a direction, because they will qualify on the INSARAG parameters. So all these rescue, evacuation, international best practices are being the parameters are being set by INSARAG, and we are very fortunate that we have a force like NDRF, which is perhaps the youngest rescue force with the maximum sort of experience in the world. They have huge regional experience now. They've been to Japan and a lot of neighboring countries, Nepal and Bangladesh, of course. But Japan was one of the countries where their work was really appreciated, especially in the CBRN sector, the chemical and biological. Especially they dealt with the nuclear and radiological leaks there during the tsunami. So India. So yes, what I could say from a generic point of view, that yes, India is following the best practices, the international best practices for evacuation, and it is something, the rescuer's job is of the expert, and as far as that is concerned, I think we are in safe hands from a preparation point of view.
Okay.
The question with Samir Jamatia, he says, please, can you share any develop on?
I'm not able to see this question.
It is in the Q&A window, sir. Q&A window.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, everyone. And which window?
If you click on the Q&A.
Q&A. Okay.
There is one chat, and then there is a one Q&A.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I was missing that.
Any disaster, he says, can share any development on disaster resilient bamboo based in hilly areas. Does bamboo also play an important role in resilience of the soil there or hills?
Okay. Yeah, Samir Jamatia, yes. He is the person who can do wonder with the bamboo, and he supplies bamboo to the entire country from Agartala, Tripura.
Yeah.
And so he is promoting this technology. In fact, not only technology, but also helping the entire industry to grow in India. And also they take part in even international competition also. So bamboo construction, of course, he is the person that who can speak out more about that instead of I speak on that. Is that Samir is there? Jamatia, can also participants speak? Okay. Like Anusha Batra, here I can say how to deal with distinct and varying risk condition in vulnerable area in each geological region. For example, Eastern Ghats are in close proximity with the coastal line, hence they might have different rocks than hills of peninsular region. See, all this classification, Anusha Batra, how to distinct and varying risk conditions in the vulnerable areas in each geological region. You say all these things are being characterized. Geological maps are available. 1:25,000 now, even more. In those from geological aspect, all these have been characterized. But now vulnerability and varying risk condition when it comes, risks with what? Risks with means if you make any constructions over there or any buildings or any industries there, then of course geology plays a very important role. But on the other hand, the buildings that or constructions that we are making, then it is taken up by construction agency as a civil engineer or their code and codal guidelines where geological conditions are also looked into, and over the time that over the time how they behave. Now in the coastal region, like if you are making some construction like port or very near to the coast, then what kind of structures to be made? There are specific guidelines and technique and technology available. Even many people are spreading and even beyond the coastal line also making floating island. Japan is a live example, Singapore and all these island cities. They are extending their area and even beyond the coastal line also. So in that case, when floating city or floating island, floating restaurant, underground, undersea restaurant, undersea tunnels, so many ventures are taken by the experts in this area, and they are working very. And there is no geological touch in that sense, but the human we say that it is adventure in this area are so much that you can see all these things are happening in the world, and people are living in minus 30 degree without minus 30 degree temperature. They are talking, they are doing their work, and every morning they are scratching out all this say, snow and everything. Even then life is going on. So how to deal with distinct and varying risk conditions depends on what are the risks that generated from. So then only it will be dealt with. So I think there is no such particular answer until and unless you say that I want to make this or I want to modify this. Then from geological classification point of view, you can see the atlas made by GSI. Then would you please enlighten us regarding international practice of quick evacuation? It is from Gautam Kumar Haldar. Would you please enlighten us regarding, this is what I think Rubab has answered about this, regarding international practice of quick evacuation system from such project site in case of emergency. So INSARAG, as you have mentioned, and moreover scientifically, in fact, scientific level in our country, yes, I have mentioned in my beginning speech also that we'll be having a team, Professor Barun Dutt and Professor Uday Kala will be speaking tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Both of them, they will be talking about some of the system that they have developed for landslide early warning, and which are deployed already in 10-15 places. More such places that they are going to deploy those systems where they can give you early warning if some slide is going to happen, and for that they have used also machine learning and also artificial intelligence into that. So tomorrow when you join, you can ask these things more. They will be able to give you more specific answer from the system that they have developed. Of course, in the world, many such systems are in place, whether it is landslide early warning, whether it is avalanche early warning. Of course, DGRE, earlier it was SASE, Director Dr. Lokesh Kumar Sinha will be addressing this on that, what of the work that they do, especially in avalanche. Now they have been changed to Defense Geoinformatics Research Establishment. From that aspect, you will enlighten in this area that what their lab is doing for the country, especially in the border area or Himalayan area. Okay. In fact, I would say that there are many, even like this shared developed disaster resilient bamboo based structure. Okay, this of course, Samir Jamatia, as I said, anyone can please contact him. I can send his email address over here, that he is the person, or you can get these things even more in the website also. And then Another one is from Kostap Saha. Deployment of air ionization monitoring setups will help generating data to analyze the pre-earthquake signals, which can be networked and integrated through radio network and satellite connectivity. So this is, in fact, going on in IIRS Dehradun. In fact, we contacted Dr. Champati Ray, but due to an unfortunate event in his family, he could not join this forum this time. But in the next session, we'll bring, he is working along with a scientist group all across the world where they are pre-earthquake or precursor signal using this ionization monitoring. They find out some very important and interesting data in coherence as well as in association with a number of countries that who are dealing with the earthquake precursor and prediction. In fact, over telephonic conversation, he has conveyed that the earthquake that has come just a week, 10 days back in the Tajikistan, a 6.1 earthquake that which has shaken Delhi, NCR, even Jammu also. Jammu, I especially say that because I was in Jammu 1 year and 4 months. I received a phone call from my colleagues over there that what to do. They are all out. They are all engineers. They came out from their houses at 10:35. But thing is, it is shaken. So they say that yes, there will be a likelihood of occurring an earthquake in February first week, which has occurred in a range. But of course, there are certain there are some countries like Nordic countries, especially Iceland and Norway. They have got such a heuristic or neural network-based system that if one earthquake triggers, then how it is going to trigger other earthquake, those kind of things through neural network, they network it, and then they can say that there is a likelihood of probability of occurring so many earthquakes in this area in this interval. And in fact, it is a long exercise being done. For that, proper instrumentation has to be done. And they have done, because they are a small country, they could devote time and money and everything. In our country, ionization part is has now started, and Dr. Champati Ray will enlighten these things after 23rd when he comes back. But I would say that if you need further, you can go to his website and or contact him directly. He is a senior scientist in Indian Institute of Remote Sensing there in Dehradun. Okay, I think any other?
So there is one question from Atul Srivastava. If you scroll up, you see, while constructing the 2 dams which got washed away recently by glaciers, was this scenario considered in the risk assessment when they were built? Was any safety analysis done? It's a very valid question, sir.
Okay, this portion, of course, since we are not directly involved, as I said in the beginning also today, maybe NTPC organization as an organization, they are now busy in arranging all those things. So they told us that they will have a more another separate session to tell that exactly what they did, what went wrong, what they expect that to do, which they could not do. So right now we do not know or we are not aware of.
No, in fact, sir, I would like to share with the audience that when the Vizag gas leak happened, the investigation report of Vizag gas leak, the Indian Oil fire at Jaipur, the NTPC boiler blast in Uttar Pradesh. Interestingly, perhaps we are there at the right time, at the right place at the right time. All the 3 reports were introduced on the CIDM forum for the first time when they were made public. In fact, the Vizag gas leak was also made public during one of our webinars, which we were organizing post the Vizag gas leak. And one of the very glaring issue which was reported in that detailed investigative dossier was that the LG Chem plant had employed the safety staff on contract basis. They were contractual workers who were handling safety. So that was one of the most surprising things to see, that such a big company, such a responsible corporation, one of their, the occupier is usually the manager or the head of the plant, had engaged contractual labor for managing safety. Clearly, it was not on the top of their priority to have safety officers who were full-time. You would have your sales staff and all of them as full-time officers, production officers, production employees as your full-time employees. But managing safety staff, the safety staff was contractual. So that was something which has been taken very seriously by the regulators and the authorities. So what I wanted to say was, this report also we will follow up with NTPC, and as you have mentioned, that we would come out with the outcome and the report and the way forward also through a dedicated and a separate session which we'll organize. And we assure all our participants that whatever learnings have come out of this recent extreme event in Joshimath, we would share it with all of you through an official representation from either NHPC, NTPC, or one of the key stakeholders from the state.
In fact, I also got a call that they want to audit, in fact, what has gone wrong. So auditing, we know auditing of finance accounts only, but auditing of infrastructure facing this kind of disaster is also a reality that which they are looking for, that audited, that why it has gone wrong and what are the precautions that have been taken, which have saved here. So this kind of transparency, this kind of understanding now coming up with our mega projects, that I think it is a good sign, best way that we can handle.
Now, I think Mr. Bibu Rath also makes a very interesting point. He says maybe a three-pronged approach should have been followed as a corrective action. Action of trees that hold on to the soil tenaciously in the Himalayan region. Finally, we may also think of reinforcing delicate rocks through wire mesh in areas where they delicately. So yes, there are reports and there are, of course, concerns from all over that how best we can, manage such landslides or, any event which is induced because of a major landslide in the Himalayan regions. I think, but there is a lot of scientific work going on, and I'm sure this recent disaster will trigger further research in this area to how to prevent, climate change impact, or the impact of changing climate on such events. We are at 5:20, sir. There is one comment from I read it from there are things. Kshitij Prabha. One I will take up. NTPC must have done some prior studies before starting the project. Didn't we have the mechanism to detect? As Dr. Ghosh mentioned, that we will hear it from the horse's mouth once they have a report ready from NTPC. Will request them. Engineer Vinay Kumar, who was very keen to come today, but obviously he is involved in a very in an emergent meeting which came up, and so is Mr. Murugesan and the Disaster Management Center Director. And of course, Murugesan is Mr. Murugesan is the secretary in charge for disaster management in Uttarakhand. They were all supposed to come, but then there are some Prime Minister office is taking a review of what is going on in the state based on what happened recently. So they have extended their best wishes to us, and they said that they will definitely join one of the forums on this subject very soon, and they will share some first-hand experience of what actually went wrong, which I think is something what everyone is very keen to know about.
Okay. Oh, we can see one industry side, one interesting query from Deepak Vishwakarma. Why we are not integrating all disaster one can trigger others. As for example, Gujarat is in a disaster prone, fine, but most of the industries are there. So if industrial disaster happens due to it or due to cyclone, which are common now in Gujarat also. So in fact, I want to just say in that, you see, industries are there in Gujarat, industries are there in Maharashtra, and whatever suitable, even in many coastal areas also. And industries are location of the industry and their operations, everything decided based on which are the other. If one main industry is there, there may be 20 other industries also. So it has got its own purpose. That, but only thing that disaster will happen, cyclone will happen. It is happening everywhere. Climate change is also happening everywhere. Or someday maybe blue sky may fall on us. We may, otherwise we will not be able to move. We will not come to this stage. So now disaster has become so common. Resiliency has become so common word. Disaster risk reduction has become so much buzzword in our science. As and when things are increasing, things are happening, and we are facing trouble, then we are trying to come back better, making resiliency. That is why such kind of interaction is going on. But why, what cyclones are happening and coming, cyclones happens even in Japan also, in America also, in many other countries also. These are all already identified. But how to allow cyclone friendly construction, rather how to live with cyclone, how to live with flood, how to live with even gusty wind. For that, we have to make, because we have to make the things resilient enough based on our wisdom, based on our experience sharing over this or from other countries and making guideline. So this is the process, that continual process that will evolve, and that is quite natural. So why most of the industries are there, and whether we should remove all the industry because cyclone is going to make, if that kind of situation arise, then of course it has to be. But right now, whatever cyclones that are visiting, whatever infrastructure damage are there or industries are getting affected, there are certain kind of equations are set that, okay, because they don't happen every day, every moment. So what are the protection measures to be taken? Those are important.
Absolutely. In fact, Gujarat being the most industrialized state in the country, obviously, as Mr. Dr. Deepak mentioned, that there are it is situated on fault lines, not only on earthquake from an earthquake point of view, but from cyclone and any other natural disasters, but also from industrial disaster perspective. And these industrial disasters can be triggered because of these natural disasters. But I must tell you, Dr. Deepak and everyone who's present here, that Gujarat was the first state which conducted the first very comprehensive vulnerability analysis of the entire state. Vulnerability analysis from every possible disaster perspective. And Gujarat is also one of those states, I mean, thanks to its, very vibrant, I would say, bureaucracy also there, which has been very, very motivated and very instrumental in helping the state develop clusters of industry. And they, like in Ankleshwar, which is one of the most industrialized districts in the country, like in Bhuj, like Baroda, in Vapi, they are creating common infrastructures to deal with disasters. See, every small industry or a big industry having its own infrastructure to deal with disaster can never be possible. The point is where all the industries, big and small, pool in funds, pool in resources, and create an infrastructure which is common to deal with any incident which may come up. I think that is the approach of Gujarat, and that has been followed in other states like Maharashtra, Andhra, which are the second and third most industrialized states in the country. Because if you cover Gujarat and Maharashtra, you cover almost 65% of the chemical industries in the country. So that is the staggering number. And be rest assured, I think Gujarat is doing a phenomenal job of creating common infrastructures to deal with industrial disaster risk management issues. So, and we've had webinars where we've had experts talk about that also. And we'll continue having that dialogue in our industrial disaster segment. But this was more on hilly regions. So we will stick to, although we've answered that question, but we'll stick to the states, the beautiful states of Uttarakhand, Himachal, Jammu Kashmir, and the entire northeast belt of, Sikkim, Assam, Arunachal. And I think they are at higher risk because, of course, they are considered to be remote areas. They are considered to be difficult terrains to operate. And but from a vulnerability point of view, they have higher vulnerability or higher risk than the states in the mainland. So a lot of focus has to be, put into being better prepared in these hilly states, and we need to pull up more resources and divert our attention towards making. Because see, any infrastructure loss, the good thing we are doing, we have really, done our best from a country's point of view to save lives. I mean, that is a given fact. Saving lives, human lives, even livestock, we are doing a great job. We are doing better than what we were, much better. But because the infrastructure is growing over the years, the loss of infrastructure is really hampering the growth of our economy in the country. And any state which gets affected, so any small incident or a big incident like Joshimath would really, have an impact on a country level GDP growth. You can imagine in Delhi today, the water supply is affected because of higher turbidity which is flowing through the hills from Uttarakhand. Water supply got affected, and of course the electricity supply or station is getting affected. So that's infrastructure loss over a period of time. It will accumulate into a huge loss. So we need to really focus on building a more resilient infrastructure in hilly areas, of course, because that's the source of great water and hydro energy is possible there. But also in our mainland, and something what our country is deeply involved in, especially with the CDRI initiative, which was mentioned earlier, the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, which is the first multilateral initiative of Government of India in the area of DRR. I think we are up for some better preparedness and more resilience in times to come.
Okay.
So,
Okay, I think just we are almost at the end, but one question, Dhiraj Mane, what is the role of weather forecasting in disaster management of disasters, which are weather forecasting are generated by factors other than weather factors? I think question is a little bit but what is the role of weather forecasting in disaster management of disaster, which are generated by factors other than weather factors? But as far as
it's a trick question.
Tricky questions. But question answer is also, very well that how well IMD gives the forecasting even 3-4 days before, and like Amphan or even Fani, or even I would like to say in the prelude to the previous question that asked that in Gujarat industry, you say how we learn from each and every disaster. In 1999, the kind of cyclone that we faced there in Odisha, 10,000 plus people were perished. But when we took some measures and response and evacuations and everything, then now it is in 2 digits or something, which is great achievement. Our forecasting as well as our response force and all volunteers and everyone. This all came up in the last 20-25 years, and of course NDMA came, NDRF and everything came after tsunami. On the other hand, as far as resiliency of Hudud cyclone in 2014 October on Vizag city, you may know that Vizag city for several weeks there was no electricity because Vizag was having lot many trees were there. So tree fell down because wind speed was, and along with wind, that heavy rainfall, more than 200 kilometers. So it has fell down most of the tree, and tree fell over the electricity poles and other things. So thousands of electricity poles, they go out of service. So as a resiliency measures, when everything is over, rescue and all other things are over, then now if you see the Vizag city, that they have made most of the electricity line or duct, cable line and everything underground. So that is again a lesson that, because one night we cannot do, but there are a lot of lessons. Like Japanese are very much prepared. Like one question is, how do you rate our country's disaster management system compared to developed country, US and UK? As many examples, Rubab and myself, and you see example that we are giving, that how we are also becoming, we are also not behind. We are rather more ahead now in many aspects. Like when earthquake happened in Japan in 2011, our disaster response force went there and they got a lot of accolade and appreciation that the kind of rescue work that they did, which is really more than, so that kind of things also we are helping, and INSARAG will in fact make this system, in fact, geographical boundary without seamless boundary, rather. It will make it more system in the rescue and relief and all this operation. So that way, whether we are behind, we are advanced in many other aspects, and we are helping and in an integrated manner to countries even around us, sub-countries or even other countries also. So that way, we are not saying that we are behind, rather we are also taking certain score better than, or in better than what so-called developed countries that you have mentioned. Like when Katrina came, and then, you know, the kind of devastation, more than 300 kilometers, and the kind of devastation they faced is a nightmare. So, and it is much more vigorous and large area.
Yes, yes.
So when Mumbai flood happened in 2005, it was the first such hit to Mumbai city.
Urban flood, yeah.
So for that also, it is a nightmare for us.
Absolutely.
So that way, it is a continuous process to go on taking some measures, especially to become resilient, whether it is hilly area or even in the coastal area that we are discussing today.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Chandan Ghosh. I think we've skidded past the scheduled 5:30 barrier. I think we've had a very interesting day of discussion, deliberation from some very senior experts from the country who had, internationally they're known, internationally renowned speakers. Before I formally thank everyone, I think there is one last chat comment from Rajneesh Kumar Ratnakar, and it caught my eye. He says many Indian companies are still appointing the HSC staff on contract basis. Is there any rule? Will contract person be taken the responsibility, be held responsible? Let me tell you, Rajneesh Kumarji, rules. The new act has come. The Factories Act has been revised. Many new rules are being notified by the government, and this is one of those where they would make it mandatory for certain type of industries to have full-time safety officers, and no contract persons cannot be held responsible. Ultimately, it is the occupier of that industry who's responsible if any accident happens. So, but then yes, things will change. Rules will be, people find loopholes in the rules, but then I think moving forward that won't be possible. It would be taken up very seriously by the authorities and by the regulators. So, on that note, Dr. Ghosh, thank you so much for your for taking up these very important and interesting questions, and making sure and overseeing the entire session. We really appreciate your gesture and your contribution in making this OTP already a success. We had almost 350 participants from all over the country, from Nepal as well, from Bangladesh and Bhutan and other countries also who joined us. So thank you so much, and I would like to formally also thank all the speakers of the day. Mr. Himanshu Thakkar, Coordinator, South Asia Network on Dams, Rivers and People. Thank you so much, Mr. Thakkar. Special thanks to Professor A.K. Mahajan as well, ex-Dean School of Earth and Environmental Sciences. And then all the inaugural addresses by Major M.K. Vindal, ED NIDM, Lieutenant Dr. J.R. Bhardwaj, former founding member NDMA. Then we had Dr. Kalachan Sain, Director, Wadia Institute of Himalayan Geology. A very, very interesting talk by him on a very interesting subject, and what we've been talking about, something what the theme is today, of resilient infrastructures in hilly regions. Ladies and gentlemen, before we close for today, let me just remind you that tomorrow we start at 30 again. That's the day 2 of the day 3 out of the day, 3 days of OTP. Please make sure that you sign in using the same email ID as you did today, because we would track the attendance on all 3 days based on your email ID. So please use the same email ID to log in, and based on and certificate at the end of the OTP will be issued to only those delegates and participants who have attended all 3 days. And we take about about 3 weeks time to send out the presentations along with the certificates for this online training program. So please give us time, wait patiently. The certificate will definitely, if you've attended all 3 days, the certificate will definitely reach you around in 21 to 25 days time. Please, thank you. And tomorrow we have some very interesting presentations. I'm personally very interested to hear Dr. Lokesh Kumar Sinha, scientist G, a very senior scientist, director of Defense Geoinformatics Research Establishment, DGRE, which was formerly known as SASE, Chandigarh. Then we have Dr. Divyesh Varade, Assistant Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, IIT Jammu. Dr. Varun Dutt, also from IIT Mandi. Dr. Uday V. Kala from IIT Mandi again. And Engineer N.N. Rai, Director Hydrology, I think, Water Commission, Delhi. I think that's also a very interesting presentation that we have. And finally, a very important, which I'm sure will interest all the participants who are present here, from Himanshu Shekhar, a very well-known, renowned TV editor, journalist from on government affairs for NDTV. You can't miss him. Almost on daily basis, he's there reporting government affairs and very critical information. And he's been very interested. Disaster risk management, disaster risk reduction has been his pet subject as well. So he's also very keen, and not very often you see journalists talking on this subject, which is considered to be purely technical, but nonetheless media plays a very important role in sharing the information, especially in case of such disasters. When early warnings can happen, media plays a very important role in spreading the word. So Himanshu Shekhar will be with us from NDTV on speaking on the role of media. So I think we have a packed, 2.5 3 hours session tomorrow. I think we've had a good, long, lengthy session today, but I think there were a lot of takeaways from all the very eminent speakers, and we are getting so many compliments from the participants on our chat window throughout, on my personal chat also, from Ritambar to Dilip and Mohammad Fayaz Ansari, Sasmita Sahu, and all these people are really happy on the information and the engaging session we've had today. So look forward to similar engagement tomorrow. Please sign in on time. Try and sign in 10 minutes prior to the start so that there is no last-minute technical glitch. We look forward to meeting you again tomorrow afternoon at 2:30. That is, please make sure you sign in with the same email ID. If there is anything, Akhil, you would like to add, or Menak, which I missed out, please feel free.
No, Rubab, I think you've covered it also. I think you've covered it all, yeah.
Right. Okay. And thank you also. I would like to thank Dr. Anil Shukla for. Sorry, I missed out on your name. Your video was not visible. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, sir, I'm very much there.
Yes. I hope it was worthwhile. It was worthwhile for you as well. And Dr. Shukla, ladies and gentlemen, will be speaking on the 3rd day.
Yeah.
Important day. He's the Associate Professor, Geosciences Division, Physical Research Laboratory, a unit of Department of Space, Government of India. We'll hear him on the 3rd day at 3 o'clock. So
Thank you,
so
sir.
much, everyone. Thank you, all the
Okay, bye-bye.
speakers, participants. Thank you. On that note, have a good evening ahead. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you tomorrow. We all see you tomorrow at 2:30. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Rubab.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Chandra.
Okay. Okay.
I'll speak.